Hey, what's going on, everybody? Merry Christmas. It's Happy Hanukkah. Hanukkah's, I think, celebrated at this time as well. Believe me, after my racist ex-girlfriend's family who were Jewish, I kind of blocked out Hanukkah.
Jeez.
Those stories were kind of crazy. People, listen, I could deal with it. I mean, compared to other races and how they're mistreated, I could be able to deal with that. But man, I growing up, I honestly thought Jewish people were the most racist of them all. Then I realized it was just our asshole family. But what's up, everyone? Happy holidays. It is Sunday night, December 22nd, 2024. Welcome to this special Christmas edition of the Don Tony and Kevin Castle Show. I am Don Tony. Join along with me, as always,
Kev Castle, what's up, DT? And a pre-Merry Christmas to everybody out there.
Same to
And
you.
Happy Hanukkah. Happy holidays.
Yes. And listen, I'm only telling you on the show because tomorrow I want your legitimate reaction when we go live for our normal edition of the DTKC show. And that is the thumbnail for tomorrow. We are using Vince McMahon once again, dressed up as Santa Claus. I think it's only appropriate. But you got something coming your way tomorrow through Amazon.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know if you'll thank me or if you're going to want to curse me out. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, jeez.
It's definitely something that I would enjoy tremendously. I just, when you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But we'll definitely have some fun laughs tomorrow over it.
Okay. I look forward to it.
Yeah. Big shout out to our entire family out there. Special shout out to our moderators, Austin Nance, who is in the house right now, Guardian of Chaos. Our Patreon family, our channel members on YouTube, DeMarcus is in the house, and everybody who's chilling, this holiday weekend. I got to tell you something just to open up. It's just something you might find interesting and you may not find interesting at all. I'm trying to figure out gifts for Christmas. And every year, I'll give a little something to my UPS guy because if I'm not home, he'll call me on my cell and he'll be like, what do you want me to do with the package? My postman, my doctor, because my doctor really, really takes care of me. But those are the non-family people. I mean, other than friends, obviously. But I have a new postman for the last 6 months. Very, very nice guy.
Okay.
I mean, I don't get much mail delivered to my office anymore. So I'm like, my previous postman was my guy for 15 years. So I always took care of him very well. And I'm like, how much do you give, for a postman that's fairly new? So I went on the net, and anybody's welcome to go check this out yourselves too. And I just did a Google search, what's the proper gift for a postman? And I had no idea that postmen are considered civil servants and they're not allowed to receive more than a $20 gift, and it cannot be in the form of cash or a gift card. You believe that?
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, in rain, snow, hail, dogs. I mean, it's porch pirates. They deal with so much bullshit, and you're not allowed to give them more than $20. And it can't be in the form of cash or a gift card. That's fucked up.
I never knew that. I actually never knew that. I
never knew that.
Over the years, and obviously, these transactions are not on video. I've seen them. I've seen people hand money to post office people before in my own family.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah, people have taken gratuities and tips and those jobs before, but I didn't know that it was legitimately illegal, outlawed in the bylines. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, if I was running for office, or I might even have to send a little tweet to Elon Musk or President Trump, like, hey, did you know that civil servants and postmen are only allowed to take a $20 gift and it can't be cash? You should lift that, or at least raise it in this day and age. If you could give illegal immigrants, like EBTs and phones and lodging, I think we should be able to give our postmen more than $20.
Well, I over tipped. I paid the same tip to the girl who delivered food. I ordered food from this new place and it was I have never in my life, DT, seen anybody this attractive delivering food. It was like a it was like a young Victoria meets Cora Jade was at my door, and I
Wow.
was like, and I had bullshit her on the phone for a couple of minutes because she where I lived. She asked me if I knew somebody who lived on the block who she went to school, and I said I lived there 17 years. I don't know anybody. I said nobody talks to me. So it was funny. So when she got to the door, she was bullshit with me, and she asked me how old I was, and I said, "Take a wild guess." She's like, "I don't know, 45." And I said, "Hold on a second. The $5 tip went to $15, and my item was 16.95.
Oh my
So she
God.
wound up getting a $15 tip just for that compliment. I said, "Even if you don't mean it, here's $10 more.
That's nice.
Even if you're working me." Yeah, that was nice. So that
That's
was
nice.
a funny interaction I had the other day.
That's cool. Hey, they're working hard, and I think there should be no limitations, to be honest with you. Or, I could get a little creative and, give him like a $20 gift certificate from me, a $20 gift certificate from my secretary, a $20 gift,
Yeah.
just like all individually give gifts. This way it adds up to whatever we're going to give them. But I just never knew that. I was like, wow, that's kind of fucked up, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I've seen people give postmen like cakes or cookies. I know my landlord gave the Amazon delivery person Christmas cookies the other
nice.
day. So I mean, yeah, I still see. I like that some old school traditions still go on, and I think it's all about the gratuities, and especially this time of year, I think it should be a tradition that never goes out of style because people are like, some cynical people are like, well, tell the people who hired them to pay them a better wage, and we won't have to over tip them. I'm like, yeah, but even if they are, yeah, regardless, I just think that around the holiday, it's once a year. You can up the tip once a year for God's
Sure.
sakes.
And a tip
You
is
know what
a
I'm saying? That's the way I look
gesture.
at it.
Even if
It
they
is.
were making more, it's a gesture. It's a sign of appreciation. It's, you go in the extra mile, and, especially you look out for them a little more. They look out for you a little more. So
Yeah,
that's what I look at.
absolutely. And we tonight we'll be accepting those kind of gratuities
Yeah, we'll definitely
in
take those
super
tips.
chats and in super chats and also in thumbs up as well because it'll get the our
Yes.
uh, our stuff
Yeah, get them a little more
moved up the line,
exposure.
more
324 of
exposure.
you already hanging out. Actually,
Yeah,
it's up to 338. We're going to
nice.
talk a lot of wrestling. We're going to talk non-wrestling. At some point during this podcast early on, I definitely would like everyone, even if you're not a baseball fan, allow us to just pay a little tribute to Rickey Henderson.
Oh God,
A
yeah.
massive part of my childhood growing up, or my teenagehood, I should say.
Me
Um,
too. Yeah.
65 years old, complications from pneumonia. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Before we do anything, because we don't like waiting until the end of the show, which I know a lot of other people do. We like to acknowledge those who send us, especially a little financial something to help us with the shows and expenses. We like to acknowledge them right away. And 3 of them
Mhm.
came in already. And I wanted to open up with Police Squad, who sent this one because we got to stir the shit up right off the bat with the podcast stuff. Hey, we're going to go into 2025, and people ain't going to see it coming. But
Nice.
Police Squad says, do we think Conrad's pie? I find this interesting because he singles out Conrad, and it's got me thinking a little bit. He says, do you
Okay.
think Conrad's podcasts are dying? Jim Ross used to get 100,000 views. Now he only gets 2,000. Eric Bischoff tanked. Jeff Jarrett, this is crazy. Jeff Jarrett can't even get 500 views, and Foley quit. Now Conrad has JBL subbing for Bruce Pritchard. Our thoughts. Now, he sent this about an hour before we went live, so I had some time to go browse. And I tell you, the two things that shocked me the most is, number one, Jeff Jarrett. Listen, not everybody likes Jeff Jarrett. I hated him for many, many years. Not personal,
Me
but
too.
it's
Character.
amazing that he does these professional podcasts with Conrad and can't even get 500 views for a conversation. Good conversations.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that Bischoff is tanked, although his numbers are definitely overall have dropped a little bit. Jim Ross shocks me because JR, because I looked early, if you go back a couple of years, JR was getting 100,000 views on videos, sometimes 500,000, 600,000. Now, like, even the most bullshit of bullshit podcasters are outdrawing them. And I wonder, Kev, is it possible that there's only so many times you could either bash Tony Khan or keep talking about
Or
yesteryear?
yes, and bashing Ultimate Warrior, which is a go-to for them, which people, and every time they do that, there's a plethora of comments are like, enough already. My God. I mean, even people like, yeah, we get it. Stop burying people who are dead already. Yeah, no, Jim Ross doesn't surprise me. He comes off as a curmudgeon. Listen, they call us old. These guys have got 20 years on us, Jim Ross and Eric Bischoff and some of these older guys. And I think Jeff Jarrett's around our age, a little bit older than us. But I think also I think people, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, I think people are more into the wrestling fan versions of the podcast. Look how successful JD is, Jason, people like that, people who are non-wrestlers, even if they call House of Glory matches and they do some stuff for corporate wrestling, but they're not in the wrestling biz, so to speak. They would admit that too. They talk about wrestling. They're fans with a platform, and I think that people are just more interested in listening to that than these old war stories and campfire tales that get a little bit old after a while. It reminds me of certain ball players who have these meet and greets, old Mets and Yankees, who honestly, DT, don't even draw 50 people. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Because been there, done that. It's almost like the Virgil syndrome of, when lined up for an autograph. I mean, how many times can you appear? I think there's way too many shows. I think the shows are starting to thin the herd, so to speak. I think nothing against Conrad. He's always personally
Oh,
been
yeah,
nice
I
to
absolutely
me.
like Conrad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Conrad's always been nice to us. He's, been inclusive with things in the past about asking us to do and stuff. And again, when COVID happened, he even hit me up and asked me if he could help me with my landlord or rental situation, letting me know my rights as a tenant with what happened with COVID. And just a nice guy,
Mhm.
always wish me happy birthday. I have nothing bad to say about him. But I will say this, it's an oversaturated market. And he's got his hand in a lot of pots. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
DT? And I think like with me and you, we do one show a week or whatever, and people are like, oh, I wish you guys did a bunch of shows a week. But me and you know that formula could probably blow up in our faces
Sure.
because we'd overexpose ourselves. It's best for me and Anthony where we're at now. Like Anthony does some solo stuff, I do some stuff with Soup. It's much better like that. And we do the main DTKC show every Monday night. That's our best path to go and our best path to stay on and do shows like this once a month and stuff. In other words, DT, pace yourselves. Don't overexpose yourselves and know where to go, where to hold and where to fold them. And
Mhm.
everyone else is like, another show, more shows, more shows, more shows. How many times, and Big Rob said it in the chat here, same shit, same old stories. You run out of shit to talk about.
Yeah.
And those guys, those topics, and Jim Ross, Jeff Jarrett, and Eric Bischoff are very repetitive with what they talk about, DT.
Yeah.
Very repetitive. And how many times can you hear same old stories? So the downfall of WCW, the final days, the this and that. I'm like, oh my. Matter of fact, they've people voted the other day, not voted, but they were doing a thing on the other day. If I never hear about fucking the Montreal screw job,
Oh my God.
Foley getting thrown off the cage, all these different things that have been the downfall of the last days of Nitro, the final night of Nitro, the WCW, before it went out of business. Everyone's like, I don't, we know everything. I don't want to see any more specials. I don't want to hear anything more. And even Bischoff's consistent anti AEW stuff, what more is there to say, DT?
Yeah.
What more is there to say? And how many times can Jim Ross tell us that Ultimate Warrior was mean to him? I mean,
Yeah.
we've heard this a million times that you're not offering anything else. And I think people are like, nah, I'd rather listen to fans because I can relate more to the fandom podcast, DTKC, Jason, JD. They're talking my language more than these old war stories. I respect these guys, but I'm not connecting anymore. I'm just
Yeah.
not connecting.
I'll say this, and listen, I want to make this clear. We are absolutely not shitting on any of these podcasts. We're just giving our outside looking in opinions.
No, and it's nothing we're saying that. I mean, like I
No,
said,
not at
I'm
all.
echoing what Rob said is true.
Yeah.
How many times can you sell the same story over and over again? And it's very repetitive. DT, if you actually even put Jim Ross Ultimate Warrior, 157 clips come up of Jim Ross talking and Bruce Pritchard about
I don't
Ultimate
doubt
Warrior.
it. I don't doubt it.
You got to. Where's the special? You make it special. Make it a clip of like, oh wow, they're talking about such and such. It's the same old shit. Again, NWO and blah blah blah. DX reunion. Enough. It makes me almost like, again, disconnect from it, where I'm like, wow, it doesn't even sound cool anymore.
You know
You
what
know what
I
I mean?
think?
Now I feel like it's like, ugh.
I give Jim Ross a little bit of a pass with this. I think what I've noticed about um oh God, Dutch Mantel. Glad he's feeling better.
Yeah.
But one thing I noticed about Dutch Mantel, and one thing I noticed about Stevie Richards, one thing I noticed about the host that does all the WSI stuff. I can't remember his name right now. And one thing I noticed about Jim Cornette and Brian Last, even though I don't agree on everything that they say, and sometimes I get a little annoyed, they all are up to date with what is going on in wrestling. Jim Ross, it's a little bit more of a sticky situation because he works for AEW, so he's got to be a little bit more careful how he talks about the current product. But I think the problem is, I think that for a lot of these others, they're not up to date with the current product. Like when there's a pay-per-view or there's a premium live event, or a special event, they're right there. Oh, live reaction. Everybody tune into me. And then a week later, I don't follow the current product. I don't watch the show on a weekly basis. So why are you commenting and bashing and criticizing and putting your spin on things when you don't even follow it on a regular basis? I just look at it like, I think what they need to seriously start doing is take a page from Cornette and Dutch and Stevie Richards, and there's many others as well. If you're going to talk about the current product, you have to, make examples. You can't just say, oh, Tony Khan is repeating what Dixie Carter did. I got news for you. Kevin and I, even before we had the fallout, right at the beginning, we said, this kind of feels like Dixie Carter. And we spelled her last name Kharter. We sensed it early on that this was like what's that movie with maybe the toy or the little kid that was the manager for the Minnesota Twins.
Little Big League.
Little Big League. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
There's only so many times you could say it, but I wouldn't say that they're dying because there's always going to be an audience for the dirt, but I think the nostalgic part of things is pretty much oversaturated. And I think just there's a lot of people that are just not interested anymore in hearing a lot of what's going on,
Well, I think also the wrestlers lulled them a false sense of security where I was in the business, so these fans want to hear me talk about it, and I'm like, not anymore. They
No.
like the fan based podcast better. I mean, it's again, JD's numbers are what triple
Yeah.
what say like any of those wrestlers, no offense, Stevie
Yeah.
Richards, any of those people, and you could go back and go, but he's not in the business. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
He's talking the language of what the modern fan wants to hear. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole thing. There's a lot of old school people kicking around. There's some old school people in the chat here now over age 40, but we also have some 20 somethings in the chat, right? And some of them are old school minded, but again, it's just like, it's not the disrespect of Jim Ross and everybody. We get it. They are iconic, all the famous in the business, but it's same old, same old. And in today's day and age, DT, you know it too, people's almost an ADHD. Everyone's got like, yeah, I'm looking over here now. I'm disinterested. I'm here now because
Yeah.
I heard that before, so I'm zoning out already. So yeah, it's you got to keep it interesting. And you also got to add humor and modern, more
Yes.
modern phrasing in
Yes.
right, guys. More talk the language, a little bit more modern phrasing. A lot of this old school rabble that these older guys do. And believe me, I get it. Again, I'm in my 50s, but I also am in a business and a club is where I book 20 something bands. I know what's going on. I kind of know what's up. I'm about as hip as you can get in that scene for a 5-year-old because I have to be, because I'm dealing with people from ages fucking 18 to fucking 80. But and I think again they just go by, but I'm in the business. These guys aren't in the business. They don't care, guys. They don't care about
Yeah.
that.
By the way, thank you, Douche. James Romero. He's the one that hosts the WSI stuff. He keeps up on the stuff too. He keeps up on the stuff also.
Yeah.
So I think people, like we tune into wrestling on a weekly basis and we watch what is going on now. We don't tune into, the WWE Vault every single week. We don't tune into to the archives every single week. It's nice to flash back once in a while, but to keep bringing it up over and over again. And, especially when people are dead, you can say anything you fucking want and no one could turn around and try to challenge you or dispute it or anything like that. Yeah, I think sometimes people look between the lines like, hey, this person's been dead for 15, 20 years. Now you're only saying that? Where the fuck was it in your book? Where the fuck was it in all your shoot interviews? Where the fuck was it in all... Now you're coming up? It kind of feels a little far-fetched, I walked into my bedroom and this guy was, playing with my dog's penis and I'm like, yeah, okay. I don't believe it. And I don't want to believe it. But anyway, Taker does good, JBL does good, but you know why? They also talk about real life. You got to incorporate a little bit of real life stuff because you want to trust the people who you sort of feel are somewhat intelligent about having discussions with wrestling that can also carry on that discussion in real life situations because you may have no one else to turn to and there's a little trust factor there. That's why Kevin and I, since 20 years ago, always incorporate a little bit of real life stuff when we talk about our shows. And lately we've been doing these non-wrestling topics at the end of a couple of episodes, and we're getting more feedback about that than anything else. So, and right now in this world, real life is fucking crazy.
Absolutely. But let's talk about the Montreal screw job once again. Let's talk about that.
You got to talk about Mangione. Oh my God, Kev! Do you see all the people out there that are trying to get refunds for their GoFundMe stuff? They realize this motherfucker is just a cold psycho killer. They thought because he had abs. Oh my God!
That dude's average looking at best. I mean, give me a break. I mean, they're just gross. That's why women are as gross as men. They're as fucking shallow and as pathetic as fucking men are. They always say men think with their fucking dickheads and not with the head on top of their shoulders. There are certain grimy women who like that. I mean, anybody props a killer. He shot a man in the back and then shot him again when he was down on his fucking side and shot him again. I mean, come on, that's Jesse James fucking outlaw bullshit from the 1800s. And we, again, look up to fucking people who do fucking good. And by the way, not a fucking thing is going to change with United Healthcare because that happened, right, DT? Not a fucking
I got news
thing
for
is
you.
going to change with the healthcare system. Not a thing.
They probably had to spend a lot of money to try to save the guy's life and spend the money to fucking.
No, but nothing changes.
Nothing
changes.
changes.
Rates, nothing's going to change with approval. Nothing's going to change. They're going to hire someone else. And if that person doesn't work out, they're going to hire someone else. He changed nothing. Nope. He changed the game zero. So again, fucking put the L in your forehead. Take the L again for people who back that horse. That guy's going to prison for the rest of his life. He has no chance of getting out.
Absolutely. By the way, the other day, Kevin and I had a fun conversation about the drones, and pretty much what we're finding out is that when Trump gets inducted in about a month, one of the first things he's going to do, even the same day, is he's going to let everybody know what's going on with the drones. So in about a month, we'll know.
Tyrese, I'm jealous of a killer. Fucking Tyrese, you're a moron. How about that?
Yeah, we're not jealous of any killers. I just wonder if
Tyrese, you're 5 seconds from getting kicked out, and I'll tell the moderator to get rid of you in about 5 seconds.
Does anybody remember the Puerto Rican guy from California in the late 80s that was murdering a bunch of people, and then he got caught? He was like a really, really, really hot, sexy, like Puerto Rican guy. And I wouldn't even say Ted Bundy would be attractive in this day and age, but that guy, I don't remember his name was Martinez or Gonzalez. It was definitely like a real Spanish name, but that guy, if he got arrested today, as long as he didn't murder women, oh my God, that guy he'd be on the front of Rolling Stone right now. I don't know.
If there is, if first of all, dating even back to Ted Bundy, a killer is a killer. It has nothing to do with a physical appearance. That's just retarded. That's retarded. Yep. I mean, that's the only word I can use. That is absolutely retarded. I mean, that's just insane for anybody to even think like that. A heinous act is a heinous act. Speaking of heinous acts, they just caught and it's a segue I didn't want to have. That fucking
Yes,
piece
I
of
know you do.
shit
The
who
train.
set that woman on fire this morning in New York City. I'm sure everybody here, because people in Australia told me it's on their news. It made the news around the globe. There was a man, and it turned out, not for nothing, it was an illegal immigrant from Guatemala who just got here and actually was detained for some other suspect of a crime. And he set a woman on fire just to watch her burn and sat there and watch her burn
Unbelievable.
alive on the fucking train. I hope they fucking set him on fire and he's a cinder. I mean, of course they won't because we don't do that in this country. But that's just, I hope that's the last of it. You know, I think,
Yeah.
I hope this woman didn't die in vain and that, she's a symbol for we're not taking this shit anymore and we're getting rid of these fucking illegal scumbag criminals. Criminals is the fucking key word. They gotta go and go now. I can only imagine what that woman's family is thinking on her way to buy Christmas gifts or whatever. And she made the brutal mistake, oh my God, of falling asleep on the train, which, by the way, anybody who's ever taken the train, I'm sure there's people in here. I've fallen asleep on the train. Have you ever fallen asleep on public
Sure,
transportation?
sure. Absolutely.
I fell asleep. I didn't think I was going to be set on fire when I fucking fell asleep on the train. That could have been anybody's mother, aunt, sister, girlfriend. I can't even imagine like what the family is thinking right now. Like some motherfucker set my mother on fire because just for the fuck of it, because he's just an evil piece of shit and shouldn't have been here in the fucking first place. And nothing can bring that woman back. But I hope again her death is not in vain, and that she's remembered, and it's not a story that goes away with our attention deficit disorder.
You want
That
to
it
know
just goes
something?
away in a couple of days because that's fucking major, dude. I
You know
mean,
what?
there should be an absolute some feeling of safety going on public
Well,
transportation, some feeling of it.
this is my thoughts on this. And yes, everyone, Richard Ramirez is the guy I was talking about. We'll definitely get into wrestling next, but I want to just say this. This is for a discussion another day. But me, I have said before, and some people agree, some people disagree. Our government let 20 million people in this country illegally. I don't want to compare it to a movie theater, but if me and my friends in 1982, the Drake movie theater, the guy's like, yeah, you could go in for free, and everybody goes in for free. Hey, if we can go in for free, why not? Not everybody that came in are bad people. A lot of people who came in are trying to have a better life, legitimate better life. I've said it before, it's our government's fault for allowing them in. Now what you got to do is those who really want to abide by the law and better their lives, you give them an ID number so they can pay tax like everybody else. And then that's good for 2 years, and then they can renew it after 2 years, and then maybe after 10 years you can apply for citizenship. But for all of these others, these criminals, these gang members, all these piece of shit on a train, you know what I would do? This is what I would do. I would, if I'm law enforcement, I would do research. I'd have the government do research and find out what are the most unsafe prisons in our country and fucking send them there to the most unsafe prisons, because I got news for you. That piece of shit, they send him to fucking jerk off prison in upstate New York, and it is one of the most unsafe prisons. And it gets around the yards that this guy lit just an innocent woman who was sleeping on fire. That motherfucker ain't gonna survive. That's what you got to do with these people. You treat them just like everyone else. You feed them just like everyone else. You don't abuse them, but you send them to like Escape from New York. You send them to the worst fucking prisons around and let them fucking hide in a corner like an abused animal, like petrified what the next step is going to be. Let that, even if nothing happens to them, let them, to me, growing up in like around like the mob, and I'm not trying to say I was in the mob, but one of the things about the mafia guys with Gotti and everybody else, and a lot of people like the growing up Don Tony stuff, but one of the most beautiful things that they used to do, it's not beautiful, but it works, is psychological torture. And believe me when I tell you, when someone fucks up, but not to the level that they should be whacked, but when someone fucks up and fucks up enough, having that person for the rest of their life wake up with a gun by their side, nervous as hell that somebody's going to break in like Ray Liotta in Goodfellas, or they go to their car and they got to look everywhere, scared shit anybody seems like they're following them, they start having a nervous breakdown. You do that for 5, 10, 20 years and people will fucking they'll go crazy. So sometimes that mental abuse is just as good as the physical abuse. I take all these pieces of shit and I would not torment them, but just make them so fucking scared that they just melt into a pile of mush. That's what I would do with those people.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's just my honest opinion. This is Don Tony Raw.
We got the right borders. I mean, Tom Homan, the new guy that's going to be in charge, he's on point. This guy could probably be the best guy we've ever had for the job. He's like very old school, and he really he when he does these interviews with some of these CNN and MSNBC people who want to try and get a gotcha moment with him, he just owns them. I don't know if you've seen him, DT. He's brilliant in all his interviews, and he's on point for this job. He's got it down packed. He's got the gift of gab, and he knows what he's doing. And hopefully we'll see changes. Changes aren't going to come very quickly, but they'll come over time. And people just want to see movement on this. They understand that it's a process. It's not going to be quick tomorrow, next week, next month. It could take months. But people just want to see that shit is in action to make changes. And I'm sure the family of that woman is thinking the same fucking thing. They just want to know that changes are going to happen again, that she didn't die in vain, and that maybe she's one of the last who has to go through something like that. There's always going to be lunatics and cretins in the subways, and it's not all people who are illegally here. There's people who are born and bred in the NYC and all around the states who are living in the tunnels and the subways right now, committing heinous acts and crimes. So it's not all on illegal immigrant lunatics like that. It's people in our own country, and there's a big mental health issue. I've never seen so much mental health issue in my lifetime, DT, as there is in modern day today. That's why there's endless clips of YouTubes. They call them Karens. What a lot of those women are mentally disturbed. They're not just annoying, hey, don't play by my yard or get your ball out of my yard. They are unhinged, off the fucking cuff lunatics. Karens. I mean, they're more like Carries, from the horror movie. There's something wrong with them. So yeah, I never seen such a degree of mental illness in this country. I don't know. There's people from around the globe who are in the chat now. Is this go on in some of your guys' countries and in your areas, like in America? Is America have the only problem of mass mental illness right now? Is it just us?
Yeah.
Is it something in the water? Is it something in the air? Is it something by birth, from our food? I wonder if it's just an American problem where there's this mass amount of mental illness, and it's not all coming from illegal immigrants coming here. I'm talking about people born and bred in our country. I don't know what the fuck's
look at the fucking Mangione guy.
And half of them are in the IWC. I mean, in the wrestling community. Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, my God. There's some real...
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Big shout out to Rob S. Rob's going through a tough time right now. Oh, my God. His mom passed away. Listening to us makes him feel a little better.
Sorry, Rob.
Yeah, Rob. Sorry. See, you didn't have to say... You know what, Rob? DM me on Twitter if you have it. I want to send you a little something from Kevin I. So I'll know it's you. But our thoughts are with you, Rob. And I know everybody in the chat feels that way as well. But listen, we're here to have fun. I mean, the conversation we had is not fun, but at least we're being straight up and honest.
Let's pick it up. Let's pick up the Christmas spirit here. Yeah.
I want to ask you this. Is this broke Friday night? I haven't seen WWE put an official press release, but maybe everybody in the chat room can confirm it also. This weekend's been a little crazy with the holidays, but is this true that WWE has publicly announced that SmackDown will actually going to be 3 hours starting January?
That's what I heard.
I haven't seen a press release, but I saw a couple of websites saying that WWE announced this. I have not seen a lot of reaction to it. So I wonder if that's actually true. But Kev, I don't know how you feel about it, but I think that is ridiculous to think that wrestling, first of all, it's funny that, Rampage goes away on Friday nights and now SmackDown may actually go to 11, but who wants to see wrestling? I
think it's confirmed, DT. I think it's confirmed.
All right. So, yeah, well, just saying you did research. I mean, it's okay. Thank you. Franchise said it's on their website. All right. So it is on their website. I got to ask you two questions because this is probably going to be on everybody's mind. Number one, is it ridiculous that SmackDown is going to go until 11 o'clock p.m. on a Friday night? Especially if since it's live, that means people who go to these shows, they're going to be staying until 11 o'clock at night. And number two, I mean, I know we're kind of getting used to 2-hour shows on a Monday night, but it sure as hell feels like Netflix is going to be maybe just a drop under premium live event quality for the foreseeable future. How are they going to fit everybody in on a 2-hour schedule when they're moving Roman Reigns to Raw, that they're moving some other stars to Raw? Cody's going to be splitting some time on Raw. Then you got all your regular players of CM Punk and Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins. And then, I mean, I know some NXT stars are going to SmackDown to fill the extra 3 hours, but is this going to, I'm not saying it's going to hurt Raw, but is this going to turn into a hot fucking mess? Because now they got to try to fit in all of these people. Unless, do you think there's going to be a bus flip?
I think there's going to be a bus flip. I think there's going to be some people probably let go. Who that would be is probably the obvious to me. I don't want to name people, and again, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer during Christmas. See people get fired. But yeah, I think there'll be some changes like that. I mean, I have no interest in watching any more hours of, as good as WWE is. Sometimes it's boring, but I don't want to see. I'm happy with 2 hours, and all these shows going to 3 hours. I mean, as long as they don't make NXT 3 hours, my God, can you imagine that?
No. CW wouldn't do that because of local news, unless they change the time slot.
It's a little bit too much. I mean, I don't know why they feel 3 hours is necessary for either show. I think 2 hours for both shows. All three shows should be 2 hours. They have enough people on all shows. You're right. They're moving certain people around, chess pieces around. And I think, yeah, they will get rid of some people. And we could talk about that in the new year. We can talk about that. But yeah, I don't want to see any more anything more added. They should just speed along segments. I mean, listen, they let storylines play out a lot longer now. Look, God knows, look how long they milked that New Day thing until they finally, we had a good payoff with that. Now,
I know.
Now they're going to milk this cross thing with the Wyatts. Now, God knows how long this is gonna go on. So I think maybe they got to speed along storylines a little bit more. They won't be able to afford to because we just talked about it earlier. People's interests. It's in modern times. People don't have that kind of attention span anymore. So I wouldn't risk it. And that's why you talk about people getting over or an angle getting over. Well, don't fucking drag it across the floor so slowly. Then maybe people will get more on board. Sometimes sometimes speed up the process is the right thing to do.
I'll tell you this much. I know people aren't going to like this, but I'm just telling it like I see it. For the last 4 or 5 years, I've said that if the women are entertaining me as much as the men, then give them equal time. I don't base my entertainment preferences on the sex of a person. I don't think someone should be on TV simply because they're a woman, or simply because they're black, or simply because they're a man. It's because they're actually entertaining people. And I have a feeling that women's wrestling on Raw may be a little bit hurt because of this jump over. Because CW, people need to realize, and listen, this is just discussion that we're having, but no one can touch the discussions that Kev and I have had about the CW network and the demo that they are targeting, the average demo that they have now, which is 51 years old, and the personalities and the nationalities and the races that they're trying to, try to attract. So you see, that's why NXT seems to be pushing a little bit more on the women's side of things. And if you look at the advertisements and the billboards, I mean, you can see who they're really trying to get over. It's kind of rare to see a Tony D or an Ethan Page on a promotion on CW, and that's fine with me. But I think on Netflix Raw, I think I'm still convinced. I think Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan will be traded to SmackDown. And then you got to start thinking to yourself, my God, who the fuck on the women's side of things are going to remain on Raw besides Rhea Ripley? I have a feeling women's wrestling on Netflix is going to take a hit. And I don't want to say I can't wait to see it, but I can't wait to see the people on the IWC that are going to be so blindsided by it that they're going to think, oh, Triple H, it's fucked up. You're not pushing this. You're not pushing that. It's you gotta know your audience. And I don't think the women's side of Raw is going to be a huge attraction. I mean, my God, if anybody's followed what's going to happen in next NXT the next couple of weeks, you got quite a few of the women's mid card that might end up staying in NXT. Hell, you had Zelina Vega, who is also a Raw wrestler, said today that I wouldn't mind working a whole bunch of NXT women. I think they're starting to see on the wall, wait a minute, I think the women's wrestling on Monday nights is going to take a hit. I just got that feeling, guys. And I'm not saying as a negative. I mean, if we're at a point right now that women's wrestling is very, very heavy on the NXT side. And I don't think you fuck with that simply because you're going to Netflix. I don't think there's any woman in NXT right now that is going to manipulate Netflix's numbers if they get moved to Raw. So you leave it on CW and you let it build. But what do you think, Kev? You think women's wrestling is going to take a hit on Monday nights?
I think women's wrestling needs to be hit with a baseball bat over the head. The most interesting thing in the women's division, I don't know if you guys agree with me, is Chelsea Green winning that belt.
Yes.
I am not. Liv Morgan's an okay champion. There's a lot to be desired, left to be desired with her as a champion. They're trying to make she's been this epic type of champion, but I don't think her match quality is very good. I've rewatched the matches several times. And it's not botches. You guys will notice it too. It's a slow pace. It's certain things she does are a little bit risky, but she doesn't. The matches don't flow very well. Is that the best way I could describe it?
They're wonky.
Yeah, they're wonky. Her matches are very wonky. In a lot of ways, she reminds me of Alexa Bliss. In a lot of ways, a lot of similarities there.
Yeah.
Alexa might have been a better worker, in my opinion. But Nia Jax too. Oh, she lost weight and is putting in an effort and she's showing up to work. That's what you're supposed to fucking do. It's like when someone says they're a good parent. You're supposed to be a good parent.
Yes.
I take care of my kids. You're supposed to take care of your kids, you dumb motherfucker. Chris Rock. Yeah, I'm not impressed with any of the female champions right now at all. Just not. Roxanne Perez in NXT is the only one I'm impressed with. Other than that, I think the women's division needs a big shakeup. Tiffany Stratton. Let's see. It seems like they've kind of are holding her back for some reason to have that big cash-in moment. Again, don't drag this out. I don't know if you guys agree with me. Tiffany needs to cash in by Royal Rumble. Don't drag this out to WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Because by the time she went, I'm sure. Does everybody agree with that? Don't do a Mania with this. Get her champion before Mania, at least by the Royal Rumble. Get this belt off Nia Jax. Enough is enough already with this. It's boring. Nobody gives a shit. And let's get some excitement back in the division with someone who's a colorful character who can cut promos and gets a decent reaction from the crowd. Again, take Dominic Mysterio away from Liv Morgan. She gets no reaction. Dom is the total heat magnet and the whole reason that Liv gets any pop or any kind of fanfare at all, in my opinion. When she comes out without Dom, it's a total different story.
Yep. I think Tiffany Stratton, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, all three need to be on Raw. I think you do that, you could probably get away with about 6 to 8 women primarily on Raw. And with that 2-hour, time slot instead of 3, you're not going to get at anywhere near as much TV time. So you might as well, use the big names. And hell, I would seriously try to get, even though the Bloodline will be on Raw, I would seriously try to get Paul Heyman to be the one writing SmackDown again, because that guy just knows how to do it. And if you're going to get 3 hours of SmackDown, and if that's going to be more of,
Oof.
the lower card and NXT and, those that are on the cusp, then he might be able to pull the magic like he did when he used to write on SmackDown in the 2000s.
No, I totally agree. And just I want to acknowledge because I'm seeing so many new people pop up in chat saying hello to
Yeah,
me.
shout out to everybody.
Yeah, shout out to everybody in the chat. Everybody who's just popping on now, latecomers who are saying hello. Merry Christmas, hello to everybody. And yeah, send in your questions. I'm looking forward to your questions.
Yes. We have to give a special shout out to this gentleman here, Peter Grippo, and I see what is that that's cut off over here? I see I guess that's Brooklyn. Let me see. This is Peter Grippo, Brooklyn Pete, and he sent us a 50 spot, and he says, Merry Christmas to
Nice,
both
thank
of you. My first episode was live when we found out about Benoit. I don't watch wrestling like I used to, but I never left the DTKC train. Thank you for all the years of entertainment. Here's to a great 2025.
Thank you
And
very much.
yeah,
Appreciate that.
thank you very much, Peter. Much love. I mean, we're having fun. And I think, listen, again, we're not trying to criticize those other podcasts. And listen, I know we didn't talk about Russo. We didn't talk about Conan. We like Conan's podcast. This isn't about grading everybody out there. But the one thing I think people notice is when people are having fun doing the shows, it resonates when you're watching it or hearing it. I think some people just have conversations because they need to make money. And there's a big difference there. You have to really enjoy what you're doing. Have a smile once in a while. Laugh once in a while.
No, absolutely. But we love money. Don't get us wrong. But we love you more than we love money. How about that?
I love you. I
love
can't. I have to listen to Brother Love before I could do a Brother Love impersonation. So, but thank you, Peter. Brooklyn Pete. So wow, he goes back to 2007. Kev, that's going to be
Wow,
18
old
years
school.
ago. Can you believe that?
That's when I first moved to Queens, 2017. I mean 2007. I moved to Queens.
That Benoit episode. It's still online. If anybody checks it out, it is by far the most bizarre episode we ever did because we were live that Monday night when Raw went off the air, paying tribute to Chris Benoit. We opened. Well, I added a disclaimer a couple of days later, but we opened up the show paying tribute to Chris Benoit, and then as the news started coming in live, we found out the truth, and we had people calling in that night, and it was just a really, really surreal, bizarre episode. And 4 hours later, we realized what actually happened, man. That's just crazy.
And DT, I don't know if you remember, me and Joey 924 interviewed Doug Basham a couple of nights after that.
Yes.
That was awkward as fuck because it just happened, and of course he was in WWE, knew Chris Benoit, and we had asked him, his thoughts, and he just was kind of brief with us about it, but it was just like kind of looming. That interview was scheduled with us for a few weeks, and we thought he was going to cancel. And actually, Doug still did the interview, and he was a very cool guy, by the way. Doug Basham. He was one of my more favorites. That me and Joey conducted a lot of interviews back then together, and Doug Basham was one of the nicest guys that we dealt with.
That's cool. I mean, it's cool, but it's sad about the timing, and I think we still have that.
No, yeah, we were trying to.
We still have that interview.
And if you listen to it, shout out to Cress, wherever Cress is. I haven't heard from Cressman. If you guys know that name, he's been with us. You talk about 2007. Cress was with us before that, I think 2005, listening to the Minority Report. He had a lot. He knows all those episodes like the back of his hand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember trying to just direct the interview and not discuss, but like I said, it was just a looming story that week, and we were trying to talk about Doug's career and OVW and his relationship with his uncle Danny Davis, who's his uncle who owned OVW. Doug was his nephew,
not the referee,
so
guys.
The Dan Davis, the guy who owned OVW.
Yeah,
and at the time, and that was Doug. He's Doug's uncle. So like we were trying to just. And Joey's like, thank God. I remember Joey Night 24 saying, thank God you have that knowledge of OVW. I really didn't, that you were asking all those OVW questions about, people in the territories and who we work with, Steve Bradley and guys like that. Because Joe didn't know. So it's like, we were basically going to talk a lot about what was going on WWE main roster. But again, that story was just looming. It was everywhere. That night, they had another special on CNN with Larry King that night
Yeah,
with wrestlers. With, I
Jericho,
think, Mark
yeah.
Merrow was on that one. Yeah, Mark
Mm-hmm.
Merrow was on that night and stuff. So again, that was, it just brings to mind that interview. I forgot how many people we interviewed back then on those old shows. Yeah, we should have them all, DT, by the way.
Yeah, we got them all. We got them all. In fact, DTKCshow.com, everyone, the site is just about done. And starting January, we're going to have a little retro section, but, we're not going to over flood it, but there's going to be a lot of content up there that have not been available online since they originally aired. And it's going to be a fun little thing. We're going to just randomly put stuff up there, and definitely every other day you'll see something up there. It'll be a lot of fun. So
We certainly got the material.
Yeah, I want to shout out Stone Hot 007. I like this question. He says, hey DT, I've said in the past that my grandmother's favorite wrestler was Hulk Hogan. If she had been alive to see Hulk Hogan turn heel and join the NWO, how do I think she would have reacted? I think she would have been extremely upset. I think she would have been confused. I think she would have been in somewhat denial. But I think in the end, she probably would have, still rooted for him. She was just hardcore, loved I don't know why she loved him as much as she did. I mean, she was just an immense love for Hulk Hogan in the mid 80s. My God, she died in 1991. So she passed away right around the time where Hogan was going to feud with Sergeant Slaughter. And unfortunately she passed, I think, April. So I don't think that was right around the time of the feud, but she probably would have been, definitely blindsided. But the funny thing was, she was a wrestling fan when Hogan was in the WWF in 79. And I, even though I was too young to understand wrestling at the time, I don't remember her saying anything about Hulk Hogan in his first run. She just fell in love with the real American stuff and everything. So she was, one of those typical old ladies. Like if you ever watch retro Madison Square Garden WWF shows from like the 70s, and you see these like really old ladies in the crowd and they get really, really like animated with the wrestlers, that's what my grandmother was. It's exactly what she was. Just over the top animated with stuff. She believed everything was real. Everything was real. So Rojo Bear with a 5 spot. What's up, Rojo Bear? Rojo Bear wants, obviously we're given right off the top of our heads, so we're probably going to make, think later and say, oh, I forgot this person. Your top 5 favorite wrestlers this year.
Roman Reigns, always number 1. Karrion Kross, number 2. Braun Breaker, number 3. Tiffany Stratton, number 4. And number 5, Bianca Belair, number 5 for me.
All right. For me, as far as my top favorites, and it reflects like how they've been utilized on television. For me.
Oh, no, it's nothing to do with utilized, just so we're seeing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, right off the bat, Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre, absolutely, top of my list. And it's funny how, like some people are still treating the busted open thing as if it was 100% shoot. He legitimately walked out on those guys. It's just funny. He literally is back on social media right now. I posted like 4 video clips for our channel members the other day, and he's mingling with fans and everything. I mean, he took a real life situation and incorporated it into his character. It's called a work shoot. But, you see people in wrestling that are still acting as if, that him walking out was a legitimate thing. I mean, it's that would have been an unprofessional thing to do, because he just riled himself up and to say, I don't give a fuck about any opinions. And you walk out of an interview, he works for the WWE. WWE doesn't work for him. I pull him aside. It's like, what are you doing? I don't care. I don't care who's sitting next to you. I don't care if Pogo the Clown is sitting next to you. you're doing an interview, you got to be professional. So for me,
Yeah.
Drew McIntyre, top of my list. Also, I would say top of my list, I would say, I would love to say Roman Reigns. I just feel it hasn't been enough, but I think it's been enough to still keep my interest during the year. So I'll go with Roman Reigns there. Dominic Mysterio is in my top 5. I'm sorry, Kev. He's a heat magnet. He's a dirtbag. He's a chicken shit. And that's what makes me so entertaining about him. So I put
No, I'm
Dominic.
just going by my favorite. Yeah, I'm not even
Yeah.
going by like
No. There's no wrong
angles.
answer.
I'm just going by favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. Dominic Mysterio is on there. On AEW, I'm going to be honest with you. Nobody's in my top 5 just because it's very inconsistent over there. I mean, I would love to say Swerve, but it's been very, very inconsistent. But on the women's side of things, I agree with you. Bianca Belair deserves to be on that top slot. But I got to tell you, I got a little spot for me towards Chelsea Green. She's entertained the shit out of me all year long. I mean, she's lost a ton more than she's won. I wouldn't put her as ranked as the top, but as far as my favorites, I think Chelsea Green is kind of like gotten close to the top for me. Although Gunther, I would put on the list too. Absolutely freaking love Gunther's work. I don't know. I like, it's an old school heel. I know, the outside background of him doesn't reflect professional wrestling, but to me, I think if Gunther was around in the 70s or the 80s, if they would have just added a little bit more over the top look with him, he could be a fucking German Nazi on TV. Let's be honest. He would be the fucking.
I thought he was a Nazi.
Well, he was Gunther Stark before they removed the Stark. So, yeah. Listen, guys. I want to make something clear. You guys, the WWE does research on Google when they are thinking about creative names. It's not like suddenly they forget how to log on to the internet and they're like, oh my God, we had no idea that this was a Nazi or this was a porn site. They know damn well. It's just like, unfortunately, sometimes they think that it's so long ago that people will be like, there's got to be other people in this world named Gunther Stark. I don't think everybody would turn around and think it's a Nazi, but that's what they do. You could kind of get away with that. What was the name of that group with Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, and was it Tamina? Remember they had the 3 letters and it ended up on like a dominatrix site. Does anybody remember the name of their group? Someone in the chat before we move on. There's like an 8-second delay, guys, on the replay.
What was it called?
No, it wasn't bad. You look up bad. I mean, everything is bad. No, it was a 3-letter Sisters of. Thank you. EVP of Sex, aka Cloudy, the Sisters of Submission. That's what it was. I think it was the Sisters of Submission. You Google that. No. Franchise is right. The Submission Sorority. Yeah, that's what it is. Big G is right too. The Submission Sorority. That's what it was. You Google that, and if you're over 18, click on the links and WWE. Oh, thank you. It was Becky, Charlotte, and Paige. Why did I think it was Becky, Charlotte, and Tamina? The fuck did I think of that?
I have no idea.
Well, Becky, Charlotte, and Paige. So, and then they changed it to PCB. They're like, oh, we'll just use the first letter of their initials. So, let's see. Who sent this in earlier? This is from Mexico. This is One Full Podcast. What's up? Thank you for the 100 pesos, my friend. Feliz Navidad from Monterrey, Mexico. When the 3 hours returns in 2025, the undercard jobber talents of Raw and SmackDown can wrestle. This conclusive, this 2-hour programming. I don't think, I don't think that the third hour will be a little bit more adult oriented. It's all about the advertisers. No. It's about the advertisers. I've said this before. If you look at USA Network, watch USA Network 15 minutes before Raw and 15 minutes after Raw, and take a shot every time you hear an actual expletive. because you will hear bullshit, asshole, bullshit, shit, son of a bitch, prick, son of a, and nothing is censored. But in WWE, everything is censored. It's all about the advertisers. So you got to see what the advertisers are. In fact, that could be one of the things with USA Network, that the advertisers who used to advertise on Raw are now moving their advertisers business to SmackDown. And you may see the same advertisers now on SmackDown, which means everything will be treated the same way it's treated with Raw, even if it is a Friday night at 10 p.m.
Yep.
So thank you, One Fall, for that. Shout out to Rob Ace, who sent a $19.99. We can get WWE Network for 2 months. Merry Christmas,
Thank you, Rob.
Rob.
Yes,
Thank you
Rob.
for the years of entertainment. Who do you think is most anxious to return to the WWE under the Triple H regime? Rusev, Cesaro, or Aleister Black?
God, I would hope none of them, in my personal opinion. Jesus, God. Where's grab a pillow and a Benadryl?
Well, who do you think would be most interested, and who, if you were forced to bring one back, like Triple H said to you, Kevin?
Aleister Black.
Okay. Really?
Yeah. No one wants to see Cesaro. Nobody wants to see him. And Rusev, I think, until he knows that Lana is moved out of the country or that she's been eliminated from the planet, he probably doesn't want to come back to America. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Aleister Black. He's the coolest character out of the three of them that they could give young fans. The young fans will give a shit about. Cesaro and Rusev. No one wants to see them anymore.
You think if Rusev were to return, they would call him Rusev again? You think they would call him Miro?
I think that ship sailed. I don't think it'll be. I think people won't care. They want to other characters and stuff. Look, these guys. They listen. Vince wasn't interested in a lot of them. They felt they had to leave and go somewhere else. But they're. I don't know if by the time they get back, if anybody's going to care. I mean, I really don't know. Aleister Black was on the cusp of breaking out. He was kind of stuck in almost like where Cross was stuck up until recently, where Black was neither here nor there after he was in NXT. On the main roster, he was in tag teams, and then he was solo. Then he would lose a lot. Then he would be interesting. Then he wouldn't talk. And like they were trying everything with him. They were all over the road with Aleister Black on the main roster. And again, he's not even really that young, actually. I think he's 40. But I think Rusev and Cesaro long in the tooth. I think that their day has come and gone. I think Aleister Black is salvageable. They can salvage him because he's been somewhat interesting on AEW with that crew that he has, House of Black. So I think, and also he can play into, there's a lot of dark characters in WWE right now. If he came back within the next year, there's so many new people since he left that he can feud with. I just think he's a cooler character than the other two. And I think the younger fans would relate more to Aleister Black than the other two.
Would you put Aleister Black back in NXT?
I don't know. I don't know. I think that would really depend. And it's a real third brand instead of a farm system. It's on CW. It's got major viewership now. It hasn't really gone up, but it's not a bad thing if Aleister Black went back there. But his character in AEW is just an offshoot of his character that he had in WWE.
Yeah.
It's in the same ballpark.
The interesting thing is, like, Cesaro, I kind of find Cesaro more entertaining than Moxley in this Death Riders gimmick. When Cesaro gets mad, he actually, to me, I think a little bit of his character, like you feel like you believe he's truly angry. I kind of like Cesaro more than I like Moxley in the group. But I think we all agree now that Cesaro is just one of those guys, and I'm sorry if this upsets anybody. I'm saying this with nothing but respect intended. Cesaro, it's been proven that for people out there that felt that Cesaro was being held back in the WWE with the League of Nations and everything else, I think we have come to realize that Cesaro is one of those guys that is meant to be in a group. He is not meant to be a single star. You want to put him in Ring of Honor that draws 150? Fine. And I know I'm exaggerating, but 500, 1,000 people, fine. But for that kind of payroll, you're going to put him in a group. Aleister Black, I agree with you. I think one thing that I always felt about Malachi Black, Aleister Black, he was always a team player. You know, he might be a little bit soft because he does the videos with Zelina Vega going to the arts and crafts store and, buying like sweaters and stuff. But he comes off authentic. He comes off as a legit nice guy and he goes with the flow. So that's someone that I could get behind. And when he does the character, it's WWE's fault. You and I used to make fun, even before we stopped doing shows for a little while, we used to make fun of him that he would be like in a dark hotel room saying, "Fight me." And we laughed at it because we're like, if Aleister Black is really looking for a fight, why the fuck are you staying in your hotel room? Get out of your hotel room, show up at the fucking arena and attack somebody.
No, they did the same again up until recently. Aleister Black was the original Cross, all over the road, all over the road.
Yep.
What he's talking, then he's not talking, then he's in a team with someone. He looks like he's joining a faction, then he's on his own, then he's in a feud with this one, he's in a feud with that one, then he's challenging people to behind closed doors to a fight. They were all over the road with him. So again, I don't fault any of those guys for going to AEW because they knew the writing on the wall while Vince was here. The three of those guys are examples of Vince totally having no faith in any three of them, and that's why they all went elsewhere. But now with Triple H in charge, it could be different. But Cesaro's old and Miro is old. I mean, I'm sorry, in your 40s is not in your prime. It's just not. Nowhere. Look it up, research it. No one considers anybody in athletics in their prime in their 40s. Doesn't matter cosmetically what they look like. That's why they won't put the belt on people like AJ Styles. One injury, he'll be out for a fucking year. Why? Because he's in his late 40s, and you don't heal as quick. It's just common sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what wrestling fans think. What wrestling fans think sometimes could fill a thimble. With anything. It's eye rolling sometimes. Some of the stuff you hear from wrestling fans. I don't understand why they don't give Bobby Lashley a 5-year contract because he's 50. Because he's fucking 50 as an in-ring talent. He's one injury away from being out for 2 years. What are you, insane? AEW did it, because they're desperate, and they'll live to regret that. By the way, attendance hasn't improved one iota since Bobby Lashley's been added to the roster. So you tell me who's making money.
I know I've said this before, but it's definitely an appropriate time to bring it up again. I'll never forget when WWE did that documentary series, The Monday Night Wars, and I think it was Jericho when Nitro and WCW started hemorrhaging viewers. And I think he said something that, when you start losing the viewers, you can have Hulk Hogan, you could have Bruno Sammartino, you could have Andre the Giant, you could have anybody you want on that television. Once you lose the viewers, they ain't coming back. And that's what it feels like right now. You look at a year ago, I bring this up every week on one of the news reports. A year ago, they were doing 850,000 viewers at this time on a regular basis. And that was before Mercedes Moné. That was before Ospreay on a regular basis. That's before Okada on a regular basis. That's before Adam Copeland. That's before everybody else that they've signed, Bobby Lashley. That's before Ricochet. You realize that they've almost signed an entire roster in the last 12 months, and their ratings are down 41% consistently. Even if they rebound another 10, 15% back, still, you added what should be an all-star roster over the last 12 months, and you're doing it's like a baseball team signing 4, 5, 6 stars, and they're losing more games than they lost the year before.
Right.
So basically, before we go any further, I think we could talk about this now. I wrote this on Twitter. I don't want to make it sound like I was bawling my eyes out, but I legitimately got teary-eyed because I feel like outside of, on the field in retirement, I still feel like Rickey Henderson had a lot of laughs and a lot of personality to offer in baseball. And I was shocked yesterday to learn, or today to learn, that Rickey Henderson died 65 years old after complications of pneumonia. I grew up watching him at Billy Ball, because I've said this many times over the years. Billy Martin is my favorite manager of all time. And when Rickey Henderson was a rookie, I think in 79, and he came up with Billy Ball, and then the A's went to the playoffs in 81, the division series against the Yankees. I still remember those games. I still remember the vibe, everything that he did. Then he came to the fucking Yankees, which was tremendous. I was actually watching not too long ago. You remember the infamous moment in 85 where Dale Bearer and Bobby Meacham both got thrown out at home plate by Carlton Fisk at the same time? You remember that?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I do, yeah.
Rickey Henderson's the one that hit the ball. And he was at second base just nodding his head no, like, I can't fucking believe that my players just did that. But then, he was on other teams too, but he came to the Mets. And 1999 Rickey Henderson is one of my favorite years ever watching him play, because he was so animated on the Mets, and he would snatch the balls. When you remember when he would do that little gesture when he would catch a ball, you would just like snatch it. And I was actually about maybe 6 months ago watching a game in 99 where he had 2 home runs against the Reds. And it was funny because he was just like, the way he just dropped the bat was so animated. It broke my heart to hear, because you and I, listen, we're not that far off from 65, but you would have thought that guy, you didn't hear anything about him drinking. I don't recall ever hearing him about drinking or doing drugs or anything like that. 65 years old, gone.
That's just the way it is sometimes. That's just a roll of the dice. I mean, anything could hit you over 50, let alone over 60. And, a bad case of the flu at 65 can do you in. I mean, I know people who, passed away in their 60s from a flu. My friend John, who was in a band, was 57 and died from pneumonia from the flu. So it happens. John didn't do drugs. John, pretty clean living guy. Just it's a roll of the dice sometimes. It just doesn't work out. People are always like mind fucked by people who pass away who are in great shape, but anything can happen. You just it's your time. It happens. 65. By the way, he was going to be 66 in 4 days.
Oh, wow.
His birthday was on December 25th, Christmas. You didn't know that?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, his birthday was on Christmas. So he would have been 66. But yeah, there's a few celebrities who got sick real quick and died suddenly from that. I was thinking of some famous actors who were even younger than that. Yeah, an athlete, even if they're an athlete, as they get older, you get susceptible to age and affliction, and does you in sometimes. And again, sometimes it's genetics play a better role sometimes than how many push-ups you can do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, because you were watching the Mets in 99. The one thing that shocked me, which I'm not complaining about, but one thing that shocked me was I was very surprised they gave him number 24 to use, because we were all, they didn't retire Willie Mays' number. I don't think, did they retire his number at that time? I don't think his number was retired. I remember they did Willie Mays Day,
so.
But they let him wear Willie Mays' number. And that's obviously his number. He was number 35 when he came up with the A's, but when he went to the Yankees, he was number 24, and everybody always remembered him from number 24. But I was kind of shocked, unless maybe Willie Mays loved his work and was like, give him my number.
Possibly, but I remember my brother brought up something. Do you remember the incident when they were in the World Series with the Mets, and he was on the Mets versus the Yankees, which I hated that series, by the way.
2000.
And I really didn't like. 2000 Mets team I did not like, with Benny Akbayani and all those guys. I was not a fan of that team at all. I just liked Piazza. Piazza was like the only great player on the team, because Rickey Henderson was long in the tooth. Rickey Henderson had so little faith that the Mets were going to win that he was playing video games or something inside. He left the bench to go inside, and he gave up already on the Mets. That they had no chance. So he was already back in the the locker room, and he got a lot of heat for that. I mean, then the Mets let him go after that. He retired a Dodger, of course, a couple of years later,
Yeah.
but he was brought back in 2007 under the Willie Randolph days. Remember,
Yeah, sure,
as
sure.
a coach,
Coach.
as a coach, he was first base coach and then a third base coach. So the Mets organization was, they had a little boo boo face at him, so to speak, for that little particular time period, because some of the reporters really went after Rickey for like, wow, way to go with your team, like, no faith in your team. Even if you knew you were leaving the Mets at the end of that season or when the Yankees won the World Series, this wasn't exactly a great impression. But I found it more funny than anything else because
Yeah,
I
me
had no
too.
faith in that Mets team. I had no faith in that Mets team either. You know what I'm saying? That
Well,
2000 series, I did not like at all. I
well,
did not like that Mets team.
keep in mind, I said 99, Ricky, was my favorite year outside of
Yeah,
the Yankees and the A's. I mean, it was 99. 99 was the year to enjoy Ricky, but um, didn't Keith Hernandez, when he thought that the Red Sox had locked up the World Series, wasn't he sitting in like Davey's office, like having a drink, smoking a cigarette? I
I
think
think
Keith
so.
Hernandez
Something
told
like
that story, like when they were like two outs. I think he was smoking a cigarette. I don't remember what it was, but he said he was in Davey's office smoking a cigarette, like
maybe. Yeah,
having a beer. And then the next thing you know, they had
it's
a couple of
possible.
hits. Yeah, I think so. They didn't give him no heat for that. Well, rest in peace, Rickey Henderson. I mean, guy has so many records, greatest stolen base runner of all time. I
All
mean,
time. Yeah.
just me growing up, I started watching baseball in 1976. As a kid, my dad brought me to my first and only baseball game that I went to. It was a Yankee game in 76. We were down the first base line towards the outfield. Reggie was not there yet, so I can't ever say I saw Reggie play in person, but I started going to Met games in 85. I think went to one in 84, but just I grew up a baseball fan in 76. I started falling out of love with baseball in the mid 2000s. And I still watch baseball now. And the Mets have me rejuvenated watching them
Yeah, me too.
again. My God, this year was tremendous. And I'm really excited for next year.
Great.
I can't
Me,
wait.
me
So,
too. Absolutely, not just because of Soto. Just there's so much and other aspects of the team to be excited about.
ye-
Lindor,
yeah,
there's so much to be excited about with the Mets.
yep. Want to shout out Mitchell Davies, who sent us 10 pounds. Thank you, Mitchell. He's been
Thank you,
listening to
Mitchell.
us since 2013. Just want to say thank you for everything that we do. Speaking the truth as always when it comes to wrestling, why we will always be the best podcast around.
Thank you.
We
Good taste
appreciate
too.
that. I mean,
Thank
honestly, it's not hard for us to, just have straight up honest discussion. Like Kevin and I are not afraid. I hope people realize this. Like we're a little more careful as far as some of the wording that we use because some people will try to take it out of proportion and use it against us. But we're not afraid to speak our minds, no matter what it is. If it's wrestling
you.
or
No,
real life, I think, if you say it the right way and have the right intentions, I think people, understand that. That's why even like the last month and a half, you and I have said some words on the show that we haven't said in probably forever. And, I think the word retard probably is at the top of the list, but we've
I'm
got
very
no
glad that
heat.
word is back, brother. No, that word is back. JD says it all the time. A lot of people say it on podcasts. That I've heard that word. I heard Jason say it the other day. So it's like that word is, and of course we're not talking about real, legitimately mentally challenged people. We're talking about people who are just should know better and just talk stupid. You know what I'm saying? That's what that is. That's not a slight against people who are legitimately mentally challenged, born that way, are that way. We're talking about people who say stupid shit and know it, and I don't know why they're saying it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's why we say it. Now, let's get that clear. You know what I mean? It's not a slight against legitimately mentally challenged people.
What do you think is worse? People talking stupid and retarded like that, or people that are talking stupid because they're intentionally talking stupid because it's an agenda?
I think it's always an agenda, and it's people who are trying to, get your goat, so to speak, or they're trying to get you riled up. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Again, I've seen everybody, claim, I'm a cool customer, nothing rattles me. I've seen everybody in podcasting, get rattled by something, and not even rattled, just something that irritates them. Like before, earlier when that dumb comment was made about jealous of a killer. Like, why would I be jealous of a killer? That's just like a dumb thing to say.
Yeah.
That's a retarded comment. And I'm also in my 50s. I'm not trying to compete with someone in my 20s. And I got news for you. When I was in my 20s, I looked better than that dude. So there's that. Um, to me, if you're going to say, first of all, if you're a fan of something, I would never go on a show or a chat where I'm a fan. Like I'll go on a thing. I'll be, I'm going to ask a question that's going to be something, that's going to be positive. Or even if I'm doing debate, I'll at least be comedic about it. I'm certainly not going to go on and insult the host. When I go in JD's chat, I don't go there to start trouble. Hey, what's up, everybody? And most people are nice to me. Most people are not like, oh, Don Tony Cal, we hate them or whatever. Actually, they're very nice, but I see, and those guys immediately get rid of people who say this stupid comments because again, they're trying to stir the pot, stir
Yeah.
shit, and I think it's pretty obvious when you do it. Sometimes it does get lost in translation because it's just like a text. If you write a snarky remark, and you guys know this too, you've had this too, probably everybody in the chat, when you're conversing with someone and someone says something to you that you kind of side eye and go, was he or she serious? And then they'll put a smiley face or a wink, like, joking around. But when you don't do that and you write some like blank statement that seems like kind of disrespectful, you know, you kind of, if you don't know the person, you're like, oh, this guy's being a dick. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if you put an LOL next to anything, I automatically know you're joking. That's just kind of the new norm. That's how you converse. You're talking to somebody, you're having a conversation, you kind of know where it's going, if it's being passive aggressive
Yeah.
or whatever. But online, we don't know a lot of these people who are coming into the chat. I mean, we know the familiar faces, the familiar names that are in the chat now. Someone new pops up and says something like that. You're like, all right, this is person who's trying to be that guy. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't get that whole thing. I don't get that whole troll thing. I don't get it because you're hated by 90% of the people on the chat. What's your point? I don't
Yeah.
get it. Go,
I get it.
you should listen to another. Hate listening or hate watching is retarded to me. It's a colossal waste of time. It
Yeah.
really is. It's a
Yep.
colossal waste of time.
Yeah.
I never watched a movie that I hate, DT, because I have 2 hours to kill.
I agree. I
You
agree.
know?
Want to give a shout out to Havili. Thank you, Havili, being a channel member for the DTKC family for 21 months. Also,
Wow.
shout out to Rojo Bear. I know we mentioned him earlier, but he's been a channel member for our family for almost 4 years, 46 fucking months. I can't believe that we've had it open for that long, but he didn't have a question, even though we wanted to send a thank you. Havili does. He says, if everyone was not injured, besides Cody versus Roman, main event night 2, what do you think? Now, obviously, CM Punk's injury is what derailed the original, I guess, plans for Mania. If Punk was not injured for WrestleMania 40, what do you think main event for night 1 would have been?
I don't really know. I don't know.
I
If
think
you
it
want to
would
say,
have
man, I
been.
don't know.
I think it would have been Seth Rollins versus CM Punk.
Likely, probably, yeah.
I think it would have closed out night 1. It's because it was still would have been only a few months after CM Punk returned from leaving AEW. I think CM Punk's injury left Seth Rollins with nobody, and again, I know people hate me when I bring this up. I am still convinced Cody versus Roman was the story the entire time, and I'm still waiting for someone to tell me, Cody, what were you thinking when you pointed to Roman in the Royal Rumble, and who would have been your opponent at WrestleMania if CM Punk wasn't injured? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if they would have went with Roman versus Rock, what would Cody's opponent been after a 2-year push, given a dusty push? What would they have done
Sweet
with
hands.
Cody Rhodes? Yeah, I mean, it's bullshit. This is like blurring the lines at its finest. I don't think Rock is that brain dead that The Rock thought, yeah, let me turn WWE storylines completely upside down, fuck up Cody Rhodes, main event against Roman, win the belt, retire the belt, and then have to leave to go do an MMA movie. Oh, and I don't believe it. I don't buy it for 1 second. I think Rock realized, wow, we could turn this into a major swerve. And, the more they can't have you, the more they'll want you even more. It's kind of like, a prude piece of ass out there. Like the more she teases you, the more you want her more. That's what Rock did. Rock took Cody, turned Cody into a hot piece of ass, and we were all the guys trying to fucking get her attention. And then finally, when she became available, that's it. She was over like Rover. So I think it would have been Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. That would have been absolutely worthy for night one. But it didn't happen, obviously. Got to shout out Roger Rubio. Roger sent in a 5 spot. What's up, guys? Merry Christmas.
What's up, Roger?
Just got here from work. Hey, guys, where do you rank CM Punk and Drew McIntyre's Hell in a Cell match as far as match of the year?
Top 3, probably 3.
For me, it still remains match of the year. I think
really?
I think the storyline, you know why I consider it match of the year? Even though Jim Cornette might have, felt it didn't, it was just like violence. I think the match matched the storyline and the hatred. Like a lot of you won't remember this. Some of you will. But one of Kevin and I's biggest pet peeves 20 years ago when we first started doing this together was you would have 2 guys on WWE television and they would cut promos for like a couple of weeks against each other. I hate you. I hate you. I'm going to kick your ass. I'm going to kick your ass. I hate you. I hate you. And then they finally get in the ring and the first thing to do is a collar and elbow tie up. It's like you truly hate someone. The first moment you get your hands on that person, you want to beat the living shit out of them. And that's what made Roddy Piper so good back in the day and others. So I thought the storyline and the hatred between Drew and CM Punk culminated in that Hell in a Cell. I think the violence and the story and everything that it told matched it. I don't know.
Top 2, top 3. I mean, I would say that.
Yeah. So somebody mentioned another match of the year earlier. I don't think it's Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland. I think that got to the disturbing, using a syringe. I mean, on the indie scene, I would have gotten a kick out of it. There's no question. If somebody would have said to me, "Hey, DT, I'm gonna inject you, pretend to inject you with some type," I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'll fucking act like an invalid. I'll act all disabled, like I'm paralyzed on one side of my body."
An AEW match is like when a tree falls in the forest. If they don't see it, people hear it. If only a few thousand people see it, did it actually happen? I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of like no, go ahead.
No, AEW. When anybody puts AEW as top of anything, it's just they had such an L year. They're like the Chicago White Sox of wrestling at this point. Like just they need to just rebrand and get new ownership and just change the whole game with that fucking company.
I do not believe for 1 second. I first of all, I don't know where Variety got the info from, but I don't believe for 1 second. This is not trying to throw darts at AEW, but I don't believe for 1 second that company is worth $2 billion. Based on what?
Oh, fuck no.
Based on what? You add up.
I think it's tops worth $700 tops. $735.
Hey,
tops.
Jason and JD triple that in super chats in one night. They could have bought AEW.
I think buy AEW. I think you should.
AEW is not worth $2 billion. If you add up the revenue, listen, being worth $2 billion, and I could turn around and buy a whole bunch of properties, but have tons of debt and have no rental income coming in. So I may have $2 billion in assets. That doesn't mean that I'm generating $2 billion. You add up how many events they do, and you add up the money, and you add up this. they don't deduct expenses. They don't deduct the overpaying of wrestlers. They don't deduct all the money that is being lost. They don't deduct a lot of the other aspects of it. That's why we never let Dixie Carter get away with that cash flow positive remark that she did on that financial website years ago. When someone makes a claim of $2 billion, you don't justify it by just saying, well, Variety reported it. You're like, based on what? Based on what? Show me how they came to that determination. And if it's a legit, determination now, then I'll accept it. I'm not against it. I just because somebody says it doesn't mean that it's true. So, yeah. RJ the Brooklyn Savage with a 10 spot.
RJ, one of my favorite people. What's up, RJ?
What's up, RJ? Just stopping by to show some love. By the way, Cross and Black could do some damage together. He's just throwing that idea out there. What do you think about Cross and Aleister Black working together?
It'll be great. I think they would complement each other. They're both the common interest, tattoo enthusiasts, MMA interest, Cross's background, Aleister Black's background. I'm sure they're friends. I've never
they've trained together.
I'm sure they've trained. They're friendly. Obviously, they're two different companies last few years now. So, but obviously, Aleister's wife, Zelina Vega's in WWE, so they might each, you would think. But yeah, they would probably match up good. Dark characters, a lot of interest. Two big heavy metal enthusiasts as well. So they have a lot in common. So I'm sure they are friends, and I'm sure they would pull together.
I know Miz is going to be taking on Dexter Lumis on Monday Night Raw, which is already taped, everybody. I read the spoilers. Yeah. I'm not going to give anything away. All I'll say is I'm very interested in seeing what happens after the match. Like, I want to see how I feel about it after the match is over, based on what I have read. Yeah. So, reading the spoilers doesn't really show you how it's portrayed on television. But we're only 2 weeks away from Netflix. Something big may happen at Netflix. And again, that's why I think the first show is going to be 3 hours. Even if they're only going to be 2 hours after, I think the first Netflix, I think we talked about that once before, is going to be 3 hours. I think you give that extra hour just, because it's the debut there. Then afterwards, we got to see where it goes. But I think we all agree, no matter which side you're on with that, I think it's got to come to a finish soon. And I'm sorry, guys, we're December 22nd. And I don't know if we're going to do awards next year. Maybe we will, but this might sound a little harsh. I think the Wyatt Six definitely deserves to be put on the list of the top, if you're going to put nominees of the biggest letdown of 2024. Because that storyline, it started in March. They debuted 6 months ago, more than 6 months ago, and I still don't understand what their mission statement is. I thought they were going after management, now they're going after bullies. I think the Wyatt Six deserve to be on maybe not a winner, but a nominee as biggest letdown of 2024. Yeah. So, Dog 29J with a 5 spot. Dog, what up, Dog? What was your worst Hogan story? His is when he melted his hands from a radiator cap on his boat. I do remember that. Merry Christmas from Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. Don Pony's neighbor. Rest in peace, Don Pony. I told you about him, right? That kid that passed away.
Yeah. I know about him.
What's your worst Hogan story?
Hulk Hogan?
Yeah. Besides being born.
Worst story that he's told and.
No, worst story the worst story that happened to him, because I'd say about 10 years ago, there was a story on TMZ where he had a problem with the engine on his boat and the I don't want to say the P word. It rhymes with Moloch. The moron tried to open the radiator cap while the engine was hot, and it bursted and almost melted his hands. I don't know. I guess we're talking about real life.
The worst Hogan story.
Maybe the N-word.
No, that's perfectly fine. I'm just joking.
We're kidding, guys. We're kidding.
Yeah, I kid.
No, you know what? Can I go first? Can I go first? Because I think maybe this will lead you into a direction. When his son Nick got into that car accident, and that military kid was in the hospital as a vegetable, and he said to his son Nick that was God's will. Like it was God's will for that kid to be a vegetable.
I just hate talking about Hogan. Hogan and Flair. I in the future, guys, less Hogan and Flair talk, the better. That would probably be one of them. And when he was lying about, someone was bringing it up in the chat, trying out for Metallica, and Lars Ulrich, the drummer, said that never happened.
Oh man, I had that picture queued up for like the last couple of weeks. Oh, I do have it. Wait, Metallica. This was one of the earliest guys. For those that don't know, this is one of the earliest photoshops that the Don Tony and Kevin Castle show had ever made. I don't know why there's a Breakfast with Blassie logo in the background, but yeah, we made fun of that. Remember when we were going to launch Hulk Hogan is full of shit.com, and then we were threatened with lawsuits?
I cannot stand talking about Hogan. I wish we could just get him out of the jargon of the show. I can't even stand talking about him anymore.
I'm not a fan of his anymore. I want to, like he brought my grandmother happiness up until 1991 when she died. But it seems like after 91, this guy turned into an ultimate asshole. No pun intended with the ultimate thing. But
well, you know who's not an asshole, DT?
Well,
DeMarcus.
Yeah, DeMarcus, you're just absolutely awesome, man. For those that don't know,
bomb.
Not only did he send a $50 bomb, he's one of our top patrons, most generous patron, I should say, and he's also a channel member on YouTube. So it's kind of like he's triple dipping, and he doesn't need to do that, but he does it to support what we do. So
the ultimate supporter.
The ultimate supporter. The ultimate supporter. DeMarcus, he's got some Royal Rumble chatter. Hasn't started yet, but do we have any early picks? He's hoping we start to get a little swervy as we get closer to April. He wants to see a guy and a girl who haven't yet won. Now, that's a little deceiving because there are some top stars that have. Does Roman Reigns ever? Wait, Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble. Is that when The Rock lifted his hand up in the air?
Yeah, I think so. I don't even remember.
Did he? Who did I don't remember if it was the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I think it was, and he won, and the Philly crowd booed
him. 2015. I remember that.
That was the old Roman Reigns, but I want to see Cross win the Royal Rumble. Just me personally.
Yeah.
And I want to see, I don't know his character is building, but I don't think it could be built that much in 8 weeks. Not even 8 weeks. Maybe the next, not this Royal Rumble, but the next one. But I'd love to see Cross win it. When he gets push. But for this year's Royal Rumble, jeez, Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker.
You know what?
For the men, Breaker for the men, and for the women, Roxanne Perez.
That would be really interesting if Roxanne Perez were able to pull that off this year. I mean, listen, guys, we're not saying they're going to win the Royal Rumble. We're just giving 2 picks of people who have not won before that, would be a shocker. For me, I'll say this. I'll get back to the women's side in a minute. As far as the men's side, you know why I absolutely love the Braun Breaker choice? All right. This is why. And hear me out, guys. I'm not going to make this long-winded.
But DT, can I say this?
Yeah.
Guys in the chat and people who are listening on the download, envision how Braun wins the Royal Rumble running the ropes 23 miles an hour and clotheslining somebody out of the ring. It writes itself.
Yeah,
The final elimination is that running
that
clothesline
that does
and
look
knocking them over
obvious.
the top. That's I mean, can you not envision that? I mean, him
I,
just speed running the fucking ropes and just fucking taking the guy right over the fucking top, whoever that remaining guy is.
I'm not comparing Braun Breaker's abilities, talent, personality, character outside the ring, but hear me out, guys. When Kev brought that idea up a week or two ago, I had a flashback to July 4th, 1993. And I'm not kidding when I say this. When Lex Luger was in the WWF, Lex Luger was doing the narcissist stuff, which I didn't like at all. Um, and he was kind of like, I mean, obviously he was still in his prime, but something was lacking with him. When they did the Intrepid, when Yokozuna was in the ring with Mr. Fuji, and they were doing like their body slam challenge, kind of like, what they did with Big John Studd and Andre the Giant. When Lex Luger got off the helicopter and he had the red, white, and blue on his pants and was just walking, and they had the camera like a little bit lower, like they used to do with Andre and they do it Omar still. And he's walking to the ring, like you felt something special in the air. I know that sounds kind of nuts for people the 20, 22 years later. What am I saying? 32, 31 years later, 32 years later. But when he hit that ring, there was an energy and a vibe that you're like, holy shit, wait, holy shit, because Luger was in that position before. Then when he body slammed Yokozuna, everybody thought like, holy fucking shit, he's gonna be that next guy. Obviously, we know what happened afterwards, but I think Braun Breaker would be one of those similar moments where you're getting down to the final few and he's still in it. You're like, holy shit, wait a minute, holy shit. And then someone gets eliminated and now he's down to 2. And you're like, and then he fucking, like you said, runs the ropes at 30 miles an hour and fucking clotheslines the other person. I think people would be like, holy fucking shit. Like that just put the Jets on him. Like, okay, now Braun immediately is in a different level. I actually think that could work.
Yeah, I just can envision it. I just feel like almost to be in that creative seat of making those decisions and how it would go. And the emphasis, because it's emphasized every week how fast he is, how running those ropes. It's almost like it's sped up. You almost have to tell yourself this is not sped up. This is him actually hitting those ropes. His intensity is just so tremendous. We haven't seen anything like this in quite a long time from a young talent who has that kind of energy and that kind of excitement. And he could be both a baby face and a heel. I like that he can go both ways, as Pat Patterson used to say to Al Perez. Uh, Al didn't take that so good. But
I'm just picturing that in Pat Patterson's voice.
Besides, Al, I heard you go both ways.
Go both days because he didn't. I can't do Pat Patterson. Sorry.
But yeah, and for the women, I just have this feeling as Roxanne suffers from small syndrome. She's kind of tiny, but she's a real firecracker. I mean, she's probably smaller than Sasha Banks, maybe a little bit, maybe 2 inches shorter. But I just have a feeling that they're going to put the gas behind her. She's going to drop that title soon to Julia, and Roxanne gets promoted up to the main roster in January for the Royal Rumble. Isn't Julia, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, isn't Julia fighting Roxanne at New Year's Evil?
Yes.
Okay, so to me, it could be a lateral move. She drops the title to Julia. A month later, she wins the Royal Rumble in the beginning of February. It's not probable, but it's possible. But yeah, you want to. I just again, as he had said to us in the question, it's early, but what are your thoughts on that? So yeah, I'm just thinking outside the box. Because people have won the Royal Rumble over the years who we did not expect them to win. I mean, it's not always a big star that wins. And WWE doesn't really need to do that anymore. I mean, again, they're pretty secure with their revenue and their money, and they're confident in their roster. And it doesn't always have to be a big name. Some people go, "Oh, it's definitely Seth Rollins." Not necessarily. Again, not necessarily. I think it's anybody's game right now. I don't think anybody's got a lock on. We could make it's fun. We're fantasy booking here. That's basically what we're doing.
Yeah.
But there's no lock on who's winning the men or women's. There's no lock.
No. And guys, I agree with most of you saying that Braun is not ready yet, but that's what makes a holy shit moment so good when you don't see it coming. I don't want Cena to win the Royal Rumble, and I don't want The Rock to win the Royal Rumble.
No.
And I got this bad feeling about Cena winning it. I got a bad feeling that he starts at number 1. And
God, no.
Listen, it makes it all the way to the final. I got that bad feeling, but you know who I honestly think may win the Women's Royal Rumble this year? And people may not like it, but I just got that vibe. I think it's going to be Charlotte Flair. I think Charlotte Flair is going to win the Rumble and challenge Rhea Ripley. And I think that's where they could be going with this.
But DT, does that backfire because her rep is so shoddy that she's out more than in? Woman doesn't come to work. I mean, she doesn't come to work. How could she be considered one of the greatest of all time? Her dad was back in fucking business 6 months after he broke his fucking back in a plane accident. This woman is out, a breast injury, a implant pops, 13 months on the shelf. Does everyone agree that they're a little fed up with Charlotte's vacation time? I mean, are you a bikini on Instagram or are you a fucking professional wrestler? She is out more than in. I will never put her as the number 1 greatest female of all time. She doesn't come to work. You have to come to work to be. That's like, a ball player who's out for seasons at a time. You're going to be the best ball player. You have to put in the fucking innings. You have to put in the hours. She is also getting long on the tooth. She's near 40. She cannot afford. If she's out one more time, I would just fucking cut ties with her completely. Enough is enough. She's been out 3 times for year periods at a time. That's ridiculous. Right? Absolutely ridiculous.
I'm not saying for this person to win it.
And she comes in and wins the Royal Rumble.
Number 30.
Aren't the fans going to shit all over her, by the way, if that happens?
I don't know.
Talk about undeserved.
Yeah.
The fans going to shit all over it, dude.
I'm not saying I want it. I just got that feeling, but I'm not saying this person would win it, but just a yes or a no. For this person, would you want to see this person in the Royal Rumble? Yes or no? Britt Baker.
If she could take herself away from Christian, if she could take herself away from Christian's arms, yes, that would be fun.
Christian's arms.
Could part with Christian. I hear she's always hooking up.
Really?
With Christian.
Christian.
I hear that. Everyone in the chat knows that.
I didn't.
Guardian of Chaos knows that. Everybody knows that. Maggie knows that. Les knows that. Gruss knows that. Kevin knows that. Christopher knows that. Well, I write everyone in the chat knows that.
I think we're breaking something, and we're kind of being lighthearted, guys. So. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody, but Christian does have sexy teeth, though, and she is a dentist, so she might be a little enamored at those.
Christian is the most handsome, ugly man. I just said.
Well, that's my gut feeling. I'm sorry, that's just my gut feeling about Charlotte Flair. Like, I don't want Becky Lynch to win the Rumble either. I could see her coming back and WWE really rolling out the red carpet for her, and just to make Seth Rollins that much happier. Like, there's nobody I wouldn't mind seeing Roxanne Perez winning it, but I just don't see. And my God, could you imagine if Jade Cargill won the Royal Rumble? Could you imagine if she won the Royal Rumble? Because I don't think that's as far-fetched as it sounds.
They'd shit all over that too. I think Charlotte coming in, there's no doubt in my mind, after getting that treatment again, it just furthers her rep. And even if she's a heel, it doesn't matter. It's going to be a lot of negative attention. I mean, it's just a lot of negative commentary. Everyone's going to be like, you got to be kidding me. JD will have a stroke if that happens. JD. Well, the good part is it'll take him out of the row. We can capture some of his.
Yeah.
He would have have a meltdown. If Charlotte came in at number 30 and won the Royal Rumble, that would be epic. I mean, the screaming that would happen, my God.
Oh, I was going to say to you, when do we do the next special episode? Because I was thinking, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. We don't have to make this official now. But the Royal Rumble is Saturday, February 1st. So, everybody and their mother Saturday night is going to be doing their podcast talking about it. You want to maybe consider this the next special episode, Sunday, February 2nd, the night after the Rumble?
Well, we're also supposed to celebrate our 1-year reunion.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so we got to do
so
that.
Maybe we'll do both. Anniversary show, and we could also, we'll be a night after the Rumble.
Would everybody like to see that in the chat? A double shot. We're going to do the 1-year anniversary along with post Rumble.
Yeah. So
one shot.
Sunday, February 2nd. So, and listen, for everybody leaving comments afterwards, we were talking earlier about, some of those podcasts really plummeting in numbers. If you're one of those who stopped tuning into some of those shows, post a comment and tell us why. Just because we're curious. And not only that, it's not that we have to learn from it because that's not our format, but it's interesting to see why some people stop tuning in. And listen, I am very, very honest when I say this. One of my mistakes over the last 10 years was bringing up politics too much on the shows. When Obama was president, even before Trump became president, I used to bring up politics way too much. It annoyed Kevin. It annoyed a lot of you out there. I used to have people that said to me, listen, I can't tune into the shows with all this political talk. I did not realize at the time how bad it was, but I listened back to some of those episodes. I'm like, BT, what the fuck were you thinking? So we keep it at a minimum now, but your feedback helps us too. So we don't want to be the next JR or somebody else that, we're doing this together for 20 years. And, we're still, the numbers that we have now are, not that far off from the late 2000s, early 2010s when we were, just there was one point, guys, and we have the screenshot and a lot of you remember it. There was one point that we were ranked higher than Joe Rogan for 2 weeks.
I know, that's true. That's a fact. That's a fact. Yeah.
For 2 weeks, we were ranked above Joe Rogan. And this was not when Joe Rogan first started. This was maybe about 8 or 9 years ago. And it was just
2015, I believe it was.
2015? Okay. I take it
9 years ago.
Yeah, it's just, it was insane. And even when I think it was Spreaker had their list, I contacted them. I'm like, listen, before I embarrass myself, and make a mistake, is this legit? And
well, he wasn't the Rogan, DT. I'm a regular listener of him. He wasn't the big star that he was. Rogan.
No, but we were number one.
Star.
Of course,
no, we were. But in 2015, he wasn't that big a deal. It's 2015 when Rogan started. Break 15, he was still finding his footing. So, but yeah, we did overtake him for like a couple of weeks. I remember even Mish showing me the stats on that. So I saw that personally myself.
Yeah,
from
I still
other
have the
people, even
screenshot.
besides you.
Yeah, I still have the screenshot.
About 9. It was about 9 years ago.
Yeah, so we definitely want to get back to that and beyond, and we just keep being ourselves and just having fun, and hopefully it resonates in 2025.
Whatever happened to Rogan? Whatever happened to him?
I don't know. Doesn't he like
Rogan? Does he do a wrestling podcast now, Rogan? Whatever happened to him?
I tell you, I don't watch his stuff on a regular basis, but when I do tune in once in a while, I'm impressed. I'm like, it kind of like gives the vibes of you and I talking. I don't know.
I think we know our research a little bit better. And someone said the other day, Rogan gives you nothing that you can't hear from an 11th grader.
It is true. I'm telling you, I watch it and I'm like, he fucking figured it out. But there's nothing like on the show that, see, like today I was looking at
it's just
some
bullshit talking. Rogan just bullshit talks with people. I mean, he'll have on Elon Musk and they'll order pizza on the air and then they'll just be talking about just bullshit, Star Trek, and then they'll be talking about or so I mean, they just go into all these different topics and it's just it's not really that formatted. I mean, there's questions that he answers, but he also lets his guest kind of roam and ramble on sometimes 10 minutes before Joe even asks the next question.
Yeah.
So it's a real it's kind of similar to what we do. We kind of just go off the cuff and stuff. It's non-scripted and it's a very relaxed conversation. If anybody here in the chat listens to it, they'll agree with what I'm saying. It's not a very show. It's loose, and you kind of never know what the guest is going to say. And I
Yeah.
don't think Joe does either.
Yeah.
So I think
I,
that's what people like. I think people like that element to be good. There were episodes that you thought were going to be good with comedians on there. It sucked. Regular people on there were cutting up, and again, because you really gotta. That's why I think, not to get political, I think cut up here on there because she really hang for things and bullshit. She
yeah.
just didn't have it in her. Some people don't have that. Some people don't have the gift of gab like that. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, I tell you, last week on our DTKC show, we were talking about the Little Rascals and the Rizzler and Chubsy Ubsy,
Yeah.
like you said. I mean, it took a life of its own. I can't tell you how many people emailed us
People, yeah, who
feedback.
sent me so many comments.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Just somehow our conversation led to the Little Rascals, led to the Facts of Life, led to Mallory from Family Ties. And by the way, for channel members, I showed a picture of Mallory on an episode of Family Ties where she's not wearing a bra. So,
Oh,
I mean,
geez.
it was just bizarre, the conversation last week. But listen, for everybody who's live right now, if you're enjoying the show, take a moment, smash that thumbs up. It's free
Thumbs up.
because the more YouTube sees that, the more they're inclined to recommend this episode to others. We're not done yet. We've gone 2 hours already. But, you know, especially that we're live still, that maybe some others out there, you know, will get recommended the show and they tune in and they hang out for a little while. So,
Yeah,
much love.
exactly. Yeah,
Much love.
definitely
Much love.
hit the like button, please.
Yes. And DeMarcus, thank you again, my friend. That's very, very kind
Yeah,
of
thank
you.
you,
And
DeMarcus.
Merry Christmas and happy holidays. I
Absolutely.
also want to shout out someone who was involved in wrestling. A lot of you remember him. He did podcasts as well. He doesn't have any social media accounts anymore, but he sent us a shout out earlier. Andre Corbeil. Some of you may remember that name.
Oh, I remember him. Yeah, what's up, Andre?
Yeah, Andre says hello. And Andre, if you're hearing this, Merry Christmas to you. And Merry Christmas to Monty and the Pharaoh as well.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to those guys too. Merry Christmas to my brother and Shaheen and Brian over there on
John and all
their
of them, sure.
podcast, Spitball Media, the Wrestling Soup, of course, Mission Joey.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to them as well.
Yeah, to of course our the third man or the third woman of DTKC, Trez, to her and her husband Danny. And to again, we mentioned it before, JD, Jason, all of our compadres and associates. We have many of them. You know, we have much more friends these days, DT, than enemies.
Yeah, we're kind of like
the old days. We had more enemies.
Yeah, we're kind of like the Trump of the podcast world.
We are. We've been accepted back, and our numbers. We got the popular vote this time.
We did. Yeah, we're on our way. But you know, if we keep growing in 2025, we'll get some haters.
I'm sure
with success comes haters, but that's all good. That's all good. We talked a great deal, Twix, about Tessa Blanchard on Monday. We had about a 15, 20-minute conversation about her. Definitely tune in to that because we talked in great detail about the IWC's reaction, and Kev summed it up. Tessa Blanchard is not a racist. She's an asshole. And assholes, you sometimes deserve second chances, and that's what Tessa Blanchard deserves. She deserves a second chance.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think getting to it, God bless the people who came to my defense. And I, at one point, just kind of leave the conversation because I left it in the hands of the fans at this point. You know, where people were just like, oh, defending a race. I'm like, name someone outside of that woman who she had the disparaging remark against, that one woman of color. Name another person of color that she said that to. Name it. You can't. So what is your basis of that she's a proven racist? Because she made one remark. And again, I'm calling you people out who say that. Swear on a stack of may your parents perish in a fiery crash that you have never said a other race or religion behind closed doors, stubbing a toe while you're amongst friends playing a card game in your basement, that you've never said anything disparaging about Jewish people, Indian people, Chinese people, Italians, Irish, or whatever. Show me a flawless human being and I'll show you a fucking liar, DT.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't like when people do this thing where somebody says one thing and that sets a tone for what they are. Again, asshole, racist, two different things. You ramp up something. That's like you're like Kev Castle, he's an asshole. But if you go, Kev Castle's an asshole and an arsonist, that makes it a lot worse, doesn't it? Do you think? You know, that's see, that's what she's a racist asshole. I'm like, and the funny thing is, once she took the picture with that girl who she insulted, they became friends. By the way,
Yes.
DT, they're cool now.
Rosa Negra.
That shit's done now. It's done because the party who needed to be cool with her is cool with her now. You're a fucking stranger. You're not in it.
Yep.
You're not part of it. So you don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Unless you're friends with Rosa Negra and she actually gave you a call and told you, you know, Tessa never apologized to me.
Yeah,
show
we
me,
just
show me, show me that. Show me that. Play that message for me. Screenshot it for me. Show it to me. You can't because you don't know these people. You don't know what you're fucking talking about. And again, if you want to be defined by saying one fucking thing, one stupid time, by the way, which is hearsay because we never heard an audio of it.
yeah.
If there's no documented evidence of it, I'm not saying that she didn't say it, but I'm also saying there's no real evidence. If this was a court case, DT, it'd be a wash. It'd be null and void. There's no solid evidence.
Yeah, and honestly, everybody, we really can't say who in wrestling these days are racist and who isn't. We don't know people personally. We don't know what their malice. I mean, we hope in this day and age that no one is anymore. I mean, some people will have some angst against certain people, but that doesn't necessarily make them a racist. So
no,
I don't think that term should be thrown out so loosely.
Exactly. Don't throw it out so loosely. Just like if someone, say, is in an altercation with a woman, rips her shirt gets ripped. Is he a rapist? Like someone will say, "Oh, rape," like rapist. What are you talking about? So again, people are quick to firebomb words, add a word, shocking word to another word.
Yeah.
She is difficult, but being a difficult person doesn't define her as something else.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, that's what it is. And if you don't go by that in your own life, you better, you better watch out. Better not cry with Santa Claus. You better not make a fucking mistake because guys like me will jump all the fuck over you because there is no one I know who has not fucking made a mistake. Whether he was without sin or her, cast the first stone. No stones will be thrown. Because everyone has sinned.
Yep, I agree.
That's so saith Kevin Castle.
So saith Mr. Castle.
And the final testament.
I could
getting
picture
more
Paul
like Cross
Ellering
every day.
that.
I'm becoming more like Cross every day.
I could picture Paul Ellering saying that too. I could see him with. He's good. Shout out to Guardian of Chaos. Thank you, Chaos. He sent the 20 spot over.
Oh, thank you, Chaos.
Merry Christmas to you, my friend. He says, thank you for always providing me with a temporary distraction and stress reliever in these crazy times, whether it's on YouTube or Twitter. God bless you, my brothers. Thank you, Chaos.
Thank you, Chaos. I think I saw Chaos's brother is not doing too well, so sorry to hear about that. I saw
this is the first I'm hearing about that. So
he had posted something, yeah. Sorry,
yeah, Chaos. Honestly, Chaos, I have been non-existent on Twitter for the most part since the Ray Phoenix disaster. I thought, hey, insurance is my deal. I've been an insurance agent since 98. I've handled independent contractors. I know how, it's run with corporations. I know how insurance is run in the wrestling world and why wrestlers would not be covered in any way by the insurance companies. And it was bizarre. You figure, okay, somebody happens to do a wrestling podcast, also does insurance. Hey, that guy actually probably knows. Just like if you have a problem with a mortgage or, Conrad offered you some advice, some help. when COVID happened and he's looking out for you, you didn't turn around and say, fuck you. Like, who the hell are you? Like, that's what happened with me. I threw out information that I thought would be helpful to people, and people like, oh, you're a fucking grifter. You're this, you're that, you're this. Who the hell you think you are? You're not. Like, now I remind myself why I don't go on Twitter all that much. So
yeah, there's a lot of assholes on Twitter. I mean, there's a lot of good people too, and like if there's a reason that you have a ghost out or a fucking unfollow or a fucking even a block, because those people aren't worth the time, and most of them aren't even under a real account anyway.
Watch tomorrow. I'm posting a doggy video. Watch the reaction it gets.
No,
I post doggy videos that gets the most attention of them all. But thank you, Chaos. Merry Christmas to you, buddy.
Absolutely.
Dog 29J with a 10 spot. He says, loved the growing up Don Tony story of Little Vito and the chocolate X-Lax. How about a funny growing up Kevin Castle story? All the best, you guys. Thank you for the great memories.
Oh, jeez. Sorry. How much time do you have, buddy?
Growing up Kev Castle.
Oh, man. Well, of course, growing up with 5 boys, 5 brothers, in one bedroom for 10 years.
That's crazy, man.
That was pretty fucked up. I mean, there's. I'm trying to think if I have any stories like that. I'd have to think. Let me get back to that. Let me think a little bit about
I'll
that.
refresh everybody the Little Vito story. I'm not proud of it, and please, everyone, just keep in perspective the time frame. It was 1984. I was 15 years old at the time. I used to hang out in Woodhaven, Queens, my friend Rob. This was right around the time where breakdancing became a big thing, and you would like do spinning on cardboard boxes outside your house. You blast the boomboxes. Yeah. So one day we were outside trying to, us fat white guys trying to breakdance, and we have a big TV appliance box on the sidewalk, and it helped you like slide and you do moves and everything. And down the block, there used to be this girl who had these gigantic tits that everybody wanted to go with her. But she was one of those Italian girls. She was probably about 16, 17 at the time. And her mother and father would not let her outside the house. She was a real bitch, but everybody still were enamored about her chest. So we were hanging out outside one day, and her little brother that was like 5 years old, Vito, comes running down the block, and we're blasting the music. We're trying to break dance, and he'd run like right past the box. And you're like, what the fuck? And now we're obviously not going to like hit the kid or anything, but she comes over and she's running down the block after her brother, and her tits are going up and down. And everybody's like, what the fuck? And then a few minutes later, the little kid runs down again. So I'd say about an hour or two later, we go to the store about a block away to get something to eat and get soda. So we're at the counter, and back then the little bodegas would sell at the counter a little tiny box of X-Lax for like 99 cents. It was chocolate flavored, and it was only like 4 or 5 in a box. So I looked at the X-Lax and I had an idea. I bought the box, and I said, if that fucking little prick comes down the block again, I said, I know what to do. So sure enough, we're hanging out in front of my friend Rob's house, and here comes this little prick again. And I'm like, Vito, come here. I got chocolate. So I gave him all the X-Lax chocolates, and he's eating it, and he leaves. I'd say about half an hour later, we're blasting the music again, and this girl's outside, lower the music, and here comes the little kid. And I swear on my parents, they're still with us. I swear on their lives, our friendship, the shows, my wife, my dogs. This is a true story. He starts running down the block back towards his house. And as he's running towards his house, he starts grabbing his ass. And he literally just falls to the floor, crying hysterical, and he shit his pants. I'm not proud of it, but I was 14 years old, 15 years old at the time, and I gave a 7-year-old little Vito pain in the ass boy X-Lax chocolate, so he would leave us alone. He shit his pants. He shit over the floor. I said, Vito, Vinica, chocolate. I gave him X-Lax. That's why, guys, If any of you remember USA Pro Wrestling, the Chris Candido Memorial Show, second annual, that CM Punk was wrestling, I was on that card too. I went in the ring and I dumped a whole bunch of boxes of X-Lax because when I gave out all the cannolis, I thought about that story with Vito. I said, oh my God, I got to give out all the cannolis. And because I was a heel, like people would take the cannolis, be my best friend, and then I would get hit and they'd all laugh at me. Oh, you suck, you fat fuck, you're green, you suck, you this, you that, you're a money mark. So that night, I gave out cannolis all at ringside. I got hit again. Everybody laughed. I went in the middle of the ring. I said, oh, you all think it's funny? And I dumped like 12 empty boxes of X-Lax in the ring. Everybody thought that I spiked the cannolis with X-Lax. And obviously I didn't. I get arrested. But that moment was based on Little Vito. When I thought of Little Vito, I said, holy shit, I got to do that here. And Mass Maniac luckily cleared it. And I told them like a week or two earlier, I was like, Maniac, can I do something where everybody thinks I put X-Lax in the cannolis? And he's like, yeah, go for it. And I went to a photocopy machine and I photocopied a bunch of labels for X-Lax and I glued them on aspirin boxes or whatever because I didn't want to go out and buy 10 boxes of X-Lax. And it's all based on Vito.
That's
true
crazy.
story.
That almost tops my story of me having sex with the mother and a daughter separately.
You told
That's
that story
crazy.
once. No, wait.
Yeah,
you told the story
story.
about. Tell everybody that story. That's
true.
a cool story.
That's a true story.
Trust me, a lot of the males out there would prefer to be you in that story than me giving a little kid X-Lax.
Nah, just I didn't know that the person was her daughter. At first, I was 20 years old, and and you'll be happy to know you'll be happy to know this totally takes the sting off the Kev Castle's a racist thing. They were African American. They were both black. So there you go. So right now, DeMarcus is extremely proud of me. Ski trip, baby.
Nice.
When I had a real job before I was in the club business. I told you I was better looking than Luigi when I was younger. You saw my picture when I was Gerardo Rico Suave, right?
Listen, guys, could you repost that on Twitter maybe in the next day or two so everybody could see it?
It's fucking that was me.
That is worth
it.
I was totally very jealous. I remember the denim. And I remember the hair.
The original. I was the white version of Gerardo in my neighborhood.
Listen, that was a good thing to be back then. You know,
that's why if someone wants to tell me I'm old and I'm this and that, I'm like, listen, dude, it's better to have had it once and you never had it at all. So fuck you and your fucking virgin ass. It's better to have had it once than to have never had it at all, ladies and gentlemen.
You know what's funny about me, and this is the God honest truth. If any of you out there have ever looked at the pictures that I posted of me personal, like from back in the day, I literally never changed my look. Like I might have changed my clothes over the years, but if you look, this is a picture of me in senior year of high school. I don't know if you could see it on the screen right now. I have the same hair. I have the same rotund tummy. Nothing has changed other than the clothes. I still have the exact same style. Like I never evolved. I only changed my clothes. That's it.
Yeah, it's SM Punk. Gerardo was a one-hit wonder. When you do the mother and the daughter, that's 2 hits, motherfucker.
That's right, man.
And they were both, very attractive women. And I'm still friends with one of them to this day, actually. The mother passed away, but I'm still friends with the daughter to this day. And she's cool. Like I said, it's like I said, you go through experiences when you grow up. It's not any kind of thing of even like a brag or a flex. It's just youthful adolescent shit that happens to some people, and it just happened to me. And if it happens to you, I'd be very happy for all you guys.
I'll share with everybody quickly my black woman story. And mine didn't go as well, and a lot of you know this story already. One time back when I was in my mid-20s, I had the opportunity to take a girl out to dinner that worked for my friend's clothing store, and she looked exactly like Whitney Houston. She was outstanding. Nice. The only problem is she had a Shawn Michaels lazy eye. So you kind of like, if you looked into her eyes, you gotta like look like above her head, because you can't just like look into those eyes because you don't know which way to turn. So she had a lazy eye, and I was taking her out to dinner, and I've told this story before. I had a problem with a flat tire. So I felt something wrong with my tire. I go outside, and she's sitting in the car. She doesn't know what's going on. I said, let me go check in the trunk. I go in the trunk, and I never had a flat tire before, and I have the jack. Now, I didn't realize that the jack is kind of like bolted down like the crowbar, and how they used to have like the spinning thing. So I spin it, and nothing wants to come out. So I'm pulling and pulling as hard as I could at this crowbar, and suddenly this thing gets loose and hits me right in my top of my eye. I can take a picture tomorrow and zoom in, and you will still see the scar. I started bleeding like a pig. And I'm like, fuck, I got a flat tire. I got a lazy-eyed Whitney Houston lookalike in the front seat of my car, and I'm bleeding everywhere. And I don't know what the fuck to tell her. So I literally realized I got no like rags to like cover the blood. So I go back to the car, and she's like, oh my God, what happened? I said, I got jumped. And she's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. So I ended up, I don't remember what I did. I might have took my one of my shirt off and put it on my eye. She ended up taking a cab home. Never had the date. Never had the date. Never had the date. Had a flat tire, a busted eye, and lost the opportunity today to take someone that looked like Whitney Houston with a Shawn Michaels eye.
That's true.
That is a true story.
Big G sounds like Kevin's living in a porn fantasy. I mean, dude, no, you live in a fantasy. I lived in a reality.
Yeah, no, honestly, listen, if it was fake, we would say it happened last night.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, these are like, dude, I'm 56 years old. I lived probably 3 times more life than you did. When you're my age, you'll look back and say, hopefully that'll happen to you. I hope it does happen to you. And I hope they're attractive. And I hope you don't have to pay for it with your credit card.
Yeah. and you know, listen, whatever floats your boat, guys. Whatever floats your boat.
What's Brian in Family Guy? Want it, wish it. What's the name of that book that he wrote in Family Guy?
Oh, God,
wish it, want it. I can't. You used to watch. Remember when you got into Family Guy like 10 years?
Yeah, I don't remember what you wish it, you want it, gotta have it. No, I can't. So
I remember like on one of the shows, like Family Guy was on for like 10 years, and you came on the show on Minority Report at that point. You're like, you guys ever see Family Guy? It's a really good show. Like DT, it's been on for like 10 years. It's like brand new to Anthony. It was really fun.
Wish it, want it, do it.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, brother Sam. Wish it, want it, do
that
it.
Is true. Family Guy was on TV for 10 years. I never watched an episode of my life, and then just showed up on my not Roku. I don't know what I had at the time. I went on the show. I'm like, you guys ever like hear a Family Guy? And like, yeah, it's been around for 10 years.
Remember when you came on the show and you're like, you guys ever see Jaws? Oh my God. when did that come out, Jaws?
Oh my God, in 3D.
Oh my God!
Jaws 3 in 3D. I still remember those coming attractions.
I saw that in the movies in 1983 when it came out.
Didn't they?
When I was 15.
Didn't they do Saturday Night Fever in 3D at the time in the movie theaters?
Staying Alive? No, they didn't do.
No, wasn't it Saturday Night Fever? Like for a short period of time, years later, in the movie theaters when they were trying to do 3D movies. I could swear they did.
They did a PG version of Saturday Night Fever.
That I do remember.
They re-released Saturday Night Fever in '79 as a PG movie. They took out the, John Travolta almost rape that Stephanie girl scene. Yeah. They took out some of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there was some really dark shit in that movie.
It was a dark one. I know people who've watched that movie and said it's a real dark movie. I mean, the language. By them, the N-word was thrown around. Gay fag was said throughout the whole movie. That was 1977. That was like kind of par for the course. And it was typical. They had the black gang, they had the Italian gang. They jumped in. They went after the Barracudas. It was the Puerto Rican gang. But that's the way it was. Even in the Warriors, they depicted that in '79 the same way, that gangs were ethnicities. All black gang, all Italian gang. The Wanderers, another movie. So that was kind of par for the course in the '70s with gang movies in New York.
Yeah. Shout out to AEW Neckbeards is in the chat. Thank you for that.
Oh, what's
Merry Christmas to you. Yeah,
So
he's legend.
he's funny as hell. He's
It's
funny as
funny.
hell.
I think he was the one that Cornette like took something from something he said, and Neckbeards is like, yeah, you can mention my name. Like Cornette, it's funny because listen, I like Cornette and Brian Last. I'm not this, gigantic, Uber supporter, but I like what they do. But I do laugh. Like whenever they like see like certain funny things that people put online, like they'll never like mention the person or like even like Ricky Starks. Like I watched this the other day. They were talking about Ricky Starks' interview with Chris Van Vliet. That was a pretty fucking big interview. And they're like, oh, I don't know who who was interviewing Ricky at the time. Like, it takes literally 5 seconds to go on Google and type in Ricky Starks interview, and you say, oh, it's Chris Van Vliet. Like, I just see that happen a lot. Like, oh, I don't know who said this, so I don't know who wrote it. But just something I notice. They sometimes people don't like to acknowledge people, but we acknowledge Mr. Neckbeard. So
We acknowledge everybody here.
yes, we acknowledge the Too Cool crew who sent the 5 spot. Hey,
Thank
DT
you.
Claus and Crumpus Kev. Any advice on how to get over Crumpus Kev? Krampus?
Krampus.
Oh, okay, Krampus. I
Good
thought it was
movie,
like,
by the way. I'm gonna watch that later tonight. I always wanted. I never watched it fully. Krampus. Anybody in the chat see Krampus, the original one? There's so many shoots of Krampus, but I'm gonna watch it actually later tonight.
okay, I've never heard of it before. In
It's the
10 years, I
evil.
will.
It's the evil version of Santa Claus, basically.
Oh, okay. This isn't the one with Goldberg, right?
No, that's Santa's sleigh. That's a wacky movie. This is more of a horror movie. Tony Collette is in it. It's a good movie.
Okay. Any advice on how to get over in wrestling? Favorite and worst Christmas horror movie? I think we just said.
Wait a minute. How to get over being a wrestling fan? Get
how
a
to
date.
get over in wrestling? I think he's an aspiring wrestler.
Oh, okay.
And he'd like to meet you under the mistletoe. And that's a joke. There is an emoji laughing one, but it got cut off.
Nice. First question.
How to get over in wrestling? You
know, would probably be better to tell him that than us.
Yeah.
I mean, find your. I mean, even early on, I think even before, like what Kevin Cross did first, even before he debuted in 2014 and 2013, he was already working on characters before he even went to wrestling school. He was already working on the Killer Cross thing. He had I don't even know if you know DT, if you had even these kind of intricate talks with him, but I did, and even chats with him over the last few years, that he had the name all picked out before he ever even wrestled day one in a ring.
Never knew that.
So yeah, he had the character. He was doing promos with, at the time, his very limited video equipment that he had, because back then he was just a bouncer bouncing in clubs. But yeah, he had the whole persona. He was working on it. So yeah, it was before he even knew he was going to go to wrestling school. He wanted to go in saying, I have an idea for a character, to his trainer, who ended up being Disco Inferno, and the guy who used to play Kazarni. You guys remember Kazarni?
Oh, yeah,
He's
sure.
one of Cross's trainers. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I would say have a vision, right, of DT, of like what you want to be even before you even hit the mat. Like yeah, I would probably say a persona vision. Have something like that, an idea of what you want to do. The technical stuff will come once you're being trained, but just envision what you want to be and how far you want to go. And as I say, if you get in the business, aim to go as high as you can. Unless there's nothing wrong with being an independent wrestler. But I wonder what your aspirations are. Also, how young you are, how long you've been thinking about this, all that stuff,
Yeah, listen, my stuff was not very good at all. But the one thing that I always thought was, if I was going to do anything, I wanted to do something that I was going to enjoy. I also wanted to do something that I thought others would enjoy too, but also something that would be a little bit different. Like, you don't want to follow the footsteps of, like a high flyer when you got 1,000 of them out there. I think you got to concentrate more on the character. Because like what Kev just said, he's talked to Cross, and Cross had the idea of the character and the name already, in his mind 10 years ago. So he had a vision, but the character is the nucleus of it, and everything in the ring comes along afterwards. So, when I did the Don Tony stuff, I based it on real reality. I based it on people that I came across. I just told the story about the X-Lax thing, but like I looked at these Italian gangsters in Howard Beach where I live. I looked at the ones who were not gangsters, who thought they were or tried to pretend they were because they thought they looked cool. I looked at people out there who were very, very biased at others. I wasn't going to be a racist, but what I did, as a lot of is, and I have the footage, which is epic, because I'll never forget my 6-year-old nieces were heels. We did a show in Long Island, and what I did was at the beginning of the show, I had a whole bunch of Mexicans. They all had to be Spanish. I had all the Mexicans that worked for my dad's store in the produce department, the meat department. They all came out, and only one side of the building, there's 4 sides to the ring, only one side of the ring got heroes, soda, just cannolis. They all ate and drank the entire night. And you had the other 3 sections just watching this one section eating food. And everybody in that section were either my brother, his wife, my 2 nieces who were only 6 or 7 at the time, people that worked at my dad's store, people from my neighborhood, friends of mine, people in the back. That whole section was based on the idea, like, look at this Italian motherfucker that is being so biased, but it wasn't towards black people. This was in Center Reach, Long Island, which is 99% white. So everybody else in the building is watching one section eating and drinking, and they're all pissed and they're, getting angry and this and that. And I was doing it to be an asshole, but the idea was I wanted to play this Italian guy who, just spent his money foolishly. And, what I did, I did. It wasn't very good, but at the time, there was no one else that was doing something like that. And just try to be a little unique, but you got to do something that is fun. You got to have fun doing it, because if it sucks, it doesn't work out. At least you could go back and say, wow, I had a good time doing it. As far as favorite and least favorite Christmas movies, is Die Hard a movie, Kev? Christmas movie, I should
No.
say.
Yeah, no, that's an action movie that happens to be in Christmas time. I'm gonna go with Christmas Vacation. I posted it yesterday, so you liked it.
Yes.
Christmas Vacation, Chevy
Chevy
Chase,
Chase.
1989, great. And the 2 kids went on to be major stars, Juliette Lewis and Johnny
Oh,
Galecki, who
yeah.
went on to star in the Big Bang Theory 7 seasons, big TV star. Juliette Lewis, big movie star. So that movie launched a lot of careers, Christmas Vacation. And it was just hysterical, and it was just great. The ending was great with that movie. Also, yeah, someone mentioned Elaine from Seinfeld. Before Seinfeld was a year from production, she was in that movie, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So yeah, a lot of upcomers in that movie, and Randy Quaid. I mean, it was as good as any vacation movie. And did you say least favorite, DT?
Least favorite.
Christmas Story. Draper hates it too. My brother John Draper, who you guys know, on Twitter is John Draper, and on Wrestling Soup, he hates that movie with a passion. So do I. We never got it. We never thought it was funny. Even when we were little kids, TBS still 40 years later plays it all day on TBS. A Christmas Story, Christmas, the kid Ralphie. I
Is
never
that
got
the
it.
movie?
I never thought it was funny. I know I
Is the
love
is,
comedy. Draper loves comedy. We never thought it was funny.
is that the movie where the little kid puts the tongue against the telephone?
Yes, yes,
Oh, I fucking hate that
yes, and
movie.
they have and by the way, the parents look way too old. Darren McGavin plays the father, who was like 65 at the time. The parents were with the kids, and just that kid was I wanted to slap the shit out of that kid. I still want to slap the shit out of him as an older actor. I never got that movie. And again, I was a teenager when they were showing that in the 80s. I was like, when that movie came out, I think I was 14 when it first came out, and never got it. And my brother Draper fucking hates that movie. I mean, he fucking hates it with a passion.
I'll go with that as worst, even though Goldberg's movie sucked.
Oh, that's horrible too. Yeah.
Santa with Muscles also sucked.
Oh
Didn't like
God.
that either. You know, as far as favorite, you know, is Gremlins considered a Christmas movie?
Yes. Yes.
I'll go with Gremlins only because, like, maybe my little dog Bruno. A lot of people think he looks like the dog, you know,
Gizmo.
like the
Gizmo.
Gizmo. Yeah, because I was gonna name him Gizmo.
Oh, that would have been
I was
cute.
gonna
Yeah.
name him Gizmo. I just happen to have a picture. I'm not doing it to show off, but this is Bruno. To me, he looks like
Okay.
Gizmo, but he doesn't look as brown in this picture. He looks more gray, but
Oh,
that's just the coloring. You know, if I adjust the coloring, he's very, very brown,
very cute.
but he looks like Gizmo. But growing up, March of the Wooden Soldiers. I just every
It's a good one.
year
It's a good one too.
it would be on with Laura and Hardy. March of the Wooden Soldiers was a fun one
Great
when I
movie.
grew up.
Great movie. And when when the little rat is hitting them in the ass with the darts, it's always fucking funny.
Oh man,
Uh,
that's a funny movie, man.
yeah,
It's so early when we were young too.
yeah, little kids.
Yep. T Smitty 3000. Thank you, T Smitty. What if Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson attacked Jade and Naomi as the mastermind? He hopes we get Bianca versus Charlotte at WrestleMania, and rest in peace to Rickey Henderson. What do you think about Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson, like taking out Jade and Naomi? Do we want to see that? I kind of want to see Naomi be a heel because she just seems like she's in limbo right now. I don't know. I think putting the belt on Naomi forced is something that Kevin and I called a few weeks ago. We thought she was going to do a Piper and offer to be tag champ. Now we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
to, what we need to see Naomi and Bianca Belair in the ring, maybe after a title defense or before a title defense or something. And then somebody, Tiffany Stratton or somebody, Nia Jax, somebody says, I got the footage of who attacked Jade Cargill.
Yeah, I think
And
it's Naomi. I think she's like the scumbag, and I think it's going to be her. And I think she'll wind up at last. She'll lead a faction with Lance Legend and Chikara,
I
and
like that.
go after. Yeah, I would expect that Naomi will lead the faction with those two. So she could be the top girl. Naomi will be like, I was the third wheel. With I was always the outside girl. You made friends with Jade before she came here. It's the same jealousy thing. It's going to be like a the typical jealous person who got put on the back burner when the shiny new star came. Naomi, I put the time in here. I was here years before Jade got here. I had to go away to even come back. But you can picture it, right, guys? Can't you picture it? Her standing over a fallen Bianca Belair. Maybe even I'm even thinking that Naomi cuts Jade's Bianca's
Oh my
extension
God.
ponytail off.
That would be fucking vicious,
Why,
man.
why have they never done that yet? And I think that Naomi would do it. But I expect to see the two henchmen, Lash Legend, who could be the big heater, and Jakara, who could be like the little technical kind of Sasha Banks type, to be Naomi's crew. And I think that'll be Naomi's group. And then Jade and Bianca, they don't really need a third to take on those three. They could probably do it on their own. Everyone's like, "Oh, who would be the third person with Jade and Bianca and Jade?" That could be anybody. They can bring up somebody from there. It doesn't have to even be a woman of color. But I think it writes itself. I would expect to see Jahara and as part of Naomi's new bad girl crew, and they're gonna wind up cutting Bianca's ponytail off.
I would like to see them tie Bianca's hair to the rope so Bianca would be helpless. And then because that's not going to be easy to cut.
Yeah.
You need like hedge clippers or you can't use a little electrical, cutters either. You have to get some.
They'll get it done. Yeah, they'll get it done. I mean, you could just envision it though. Again, these are things like I said with Braun Breaker running the ropes to get that guy over the top. It's just kind of fantasy booking in your head of sitting at the creative table and going, why don't we do this? You want to get heat? Have her cut off Bianca's ponytail extension.
Wow.
Whoa, no one's ever done that. Exactly. And who would Bianca do that for? She would probably let Naomi do it, right?
Yep. Yeah.
She would want Naomi to really get over. That's gonna how much heat would that get her, guys? Cut off Bianca's signature hair.
Shit
Oh
load.
my God. I mean, I should be at that table with Shawn Michaels and Triple H.
You know, if Naomi joins Lash and Jakar and use their initials, that would be LJN. That would probably be a lawsuit. Isn't there a
Yep.
toy company named LJN?
I think so. It's
Yeah, I
is it
think
out of
there's
business? I
LJN.
think it's still existing.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And Bianca and Charlotte Mania, I wouldn't mind it. I just have a feeling it might be Rhea and Charlotte because you need somebody to feud Rhea, especially if Rhea regains that women's championship. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think once we get past the Royal Rumble, listen, if we do that show on February 2nd here, I think we will have a pretty clear picture as far as who could be facing who at WrestleMania. So we could definitely revisit that on the 2nd. Absolutely. Absolutely. Shout out to Tommy Takeshi. Tommy's in the house. One of our longest, biggest supporters.
Another one. Yeah, another one. Yeah.
I hate using the term supporter. He's a friend. I mean, he's just a legit friend for you especially. You know him personally. Yeah. He says,
loyalist. Yeah.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, guys. All the best to both of you this holiday season. Would Andre the Giant and the Ultimate Warrior be as popular in today's wrestling climate as they were back in the day?
Probably not, because we've seen so many guys even bigger than Andre at this point. Khali was technically bigger than Andre.
Yeah.
Warrior would have to obviously tone down. Could still have the makeup the way Sting does, but Warrior would have to cut down on the crazy jargon talk and the babble. He could be intense and be cool and come out the heavy metal guitar. I think fans would still shaking the ropes. I think never goes out of style. I think the fans would like that. But Warrior would have to change his talking game and a little bit of the presentation. Work rate, yeah, maybe be a little bit better worker, but not necessarily. Just kind of be a wrecking machine. But yeah, I think they both can get over. Andre, I think, would have a harder time than Warrior because we've seen so many 7-footers come in and kind of flop. And also, by today's standards, a lot of modern fans would find Andre to be kind of fat and sloppy.
Yes.
To be kind of honest with you. Guys, am I lying? Be honest. Wouldn't you see Andre for the first time, that big belly and that big overhang, you're like, like, like you're not, you're going to be like, it's kind of a big, heavy, awkward looking guy. Like, I don't know, who moves very slow,
Yeah, like an
kind of
Oompa Loompa.
plodding and slow. Yeah, I think, because we have put in the lore of Andre the Giant and he's this respected legend and stuff, but just cold case seeing him come out, people would be like, who the fuck is this guy? Kind of slow, kind of meandering. I mean, nothing really. Doesn't have a lot of moves. I think a lot of fans would be like, "Oh, another version of Great Khali." That's probably what they would say
if he
was like he came out today.
I think if Warrior and Andre would be around 50 right now. And what I mean by that is if Andre would have been in, let's say, his early to mid 20s back in the 80s or close to 90, and he was around now in his early 50s, like, I don't know physically if he'd be able to go. I mean, look, Paul White got, say what you want about him, but he's still able to still move around at that size. But I think Warrior, especially if Warrior was in his early 20s 40 years ago and now was, say, around 60 and could still do a little bit, I think there'd be enough love and respect for him that I think he would have been listen, he overcame that stupid DVD that WWE put out and they brought him back for the Hall of Fame and he tragically died right after. But I think if Warrior might have been 10, 15 years old, younger at the time, and he didn't die, and he could still do a match here and there, I think he would still be beloved today.
Yeah, I think so. Again, I think he's got intensity with fans. I mean, that's what Braun Breaker has, intensity. He has this kind of oomph, a kind of fire and a spirit, energy. They call it energy. And as Stephanie McMahon said, the same thing. How could you not be taken aback, especially if you're a kid or a teenager? That kind of explosiveness is what captivates people, and that never goes out of style. again, that's our impressed Braun Breaker he does, and tackling people at football tackle where he almost hurts himself every time. He almost takes himself out. He's so intense.
Yeah.
My friend Carolyn was like, "I'm afraid he's going to get hurt like badly on one of those like ringside, like break his head open on the desk." Oh, fucking intense! My God.
Yeah.
But that's where you get the oohs and the ahs from the crowd. The crowd is never silent when Braun does that stuff. That's the thing. A is the main, is a good guy or a bad guy. But yeah, I just think it's a different time, Tommy. I think that's like saying, could Greg Tyne Beefcake get over today? I don't know about that. A Chippendales dance, they still have men dancing at clubs, but fuck is a young, and you would equate that with their like grandmothers going to see that back in the grandma. It was from the 70s, the 80s. It all depends. I think DT. It all depends. It's when you say who could get over today. People say Randy Orton could have been in the NWA with Magnum TA. I guess. I mean, but you'd have to fine
Yeah.
tool everything. You'd have to adapt and adjust like to any other generation.
I agree. I mean, somebody, listen, even like I said earlier, Gunther, I think would be great old school. But you also got to think, it's not just somebody that you could picture back in the day. I mean, that's why we all do fantasy matches. You say, oh my God, Kurt Angle versus Bret Hart. How would Kurt Angle have been treated in the early to mid 80s as an Olympian just getting into wrestling? I hate to say this, and some people may agree with me, but back in the older years, traditional 80s, 70s, Kurt Angle respected because he's an Olympian. But if he didn't have a professional wrestling background, you would have a lot of these old timers from the 70s like, yeah, I'll stretch that guy. Yeah, I don't know if they would have given him as much of a leash to learn the craft and learn the business. You look at some wrestlers, even like Roddy Piper. I mean, a lot of people don't know this. We brought it up on the history shows in the past. When Roddy Piper came into the WWF in 1979, if you look at his first ever appearance on WWF television, he's in the ring playing the bagpipes, and he doesn't stop. And he's trolling the fans, and he's playing the bagpipe. This is 1979. And what happened? You had, I think, Classy Freddie Blassie, Grand Wizard, Lou Albano, and others. When he was coming out, I think, for a match in Madison Square Garden, they put toilet paper inside his bagpipes. So he started coming out to the ring and he tried to blow and nothing would happen. They were trying to sabotage him. He had 3 appearances, I think, on WWF television, and he disappeared. This is a young Roddy Piper, that they just wanted to fuck with. And back then, wrestlers, Hall of Famers, long timers, old school guys, you brought somebody new in the business, they may not give you. If they didn't like you, they would probably do everything they can to try to fuck your ass up. So I don't know if some of the people from today would have been able to hang back then. I guarantee they probably would have tried to work Randy, and start fucking with him, even though his father was in. Maybe they would have given him more leash because his father was in the business. I mean, they gave David Sammartino a shitload of leash back then. They yeah. Interesting conversation. I think Warrior would be over these days, although he probably would have to be around Sting's age. And hey, who came up with Sting? Ultimate Warrior.
Yep.
You know what? I wonder if Sting and Warrior would have teamed up, even if one match in AEW, if he could still do something. I mean, he would have to grow out.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, that's big if.
So, well, we're going to start bringing this home, guys. We got a few more. We're going to get into some more questions too, but we got a couple of quick ones. We just wanted to acknowledge some of you out there. Shout out to Joe Marr, who sent the 5-spot earlier. Wanted to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Same to you, Joey. Same to you, Joey. Dog 29J, he wants me to talk about the Color Me Bad story. I'll tell that in a second. I'll get back to it. So hold that thought. AEW Neckbeards, as we shouted him out earlier. Merry Christmas to you, my friend. We acknowledge you. We acknowledge you, buddy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Also, Mayor of Dinosaur Island, Landry. Have we ever played Cards Against Humanity? And what was the last board game you played?
No, I've never played that. Cards Against Humanity. I've never played it. The last board game I played, Monopoly. I played Monopoly during COVID lockdown, but it was months in. I had a friend come over and we played Monopoly. She bought a Monopoly game over here, and I had to retool myself and how to play it. I completely blanked
Yep.
on how to play fucking Monopoly, and I thought it was so simplistic. And I'm like, I don't remember it that way. And I'm even like, is that I got to read the directions. She's like, this is how you play. I've been playing it consistently. So yeah, we played Monopoly. Just because we were still in the lockdown, but it was 6 months in, it was safe for her to come over. And we played Monopoly, and I remember enjoying it a lot more when there was a lot of people involved. Like 2 people is not like a big game, you know?
That's the problem with me. It's just me and my wife. And when we first started going together in 2012, like I went to buy like a couple of games so we could just like play, and I would get like Jenga and Uno and stuff like that. I never got Cards Against Humanity. I thought that was a little bit too out there. Unfortunately, a lot of the card games and you could have just one person as an opponent, they were a little bit too much. I wasn't going to do any truth or dare stuff. But the last board game that we played was actually Trivial Pursuit. And I had bought the 80s edition. I thought I was going to kill her in that game. And we both revealed how dumb we were. They was asking so many questions from the 80s, and I got nothing right. And she got nothing right either.
That game. I used to do good at that game. I Trivia Pursuit, I'd be down to play again. I should have mentioned that back then. Wow, I wound up with Monopoly. Should have went with Trivia Pursuit.
You know, I can't remember his name right now. God, I feel awful. A couple of years ago, I played Wrestling Jeopardy on his channel, and they just had a Jeopardy game on the screen. I mean, we're all audio only, but it was a pretty fun game that we did. And you know, I guess I wonder if there's a way to get Trivial Pursuit, like just the Trivial Pursuit game on the screen. And if we could get just the game on the screen, maybe we could play like a game online, like me, you, and we'll get like another person or two and play Trivial Pursuit online.
That could be interesting.
Just give it a shot. I got to look into that. I'm going to go check that out. So, very quickly, the Color Me Bad story. This is easy to say. I was dating this Dominican chick back in 1990, and I still have the pictures. I swear to God. I mean, I'm not on video now, but I literally have the picture. I'm looking at the album right now in front of me. Next Sunday, if anybody's interested, I will show you through the screen. You could see it. She absolutely loved Paula Abdul. She wanted to see Paula Abdul in concert. So I threw a scalper. I got front row tickets for Paula Abdul. And
they were the opening act, right?
And they were the opening act.
I remember that tour.
I hated them. I have pictures that I took. I took about 50, 60 pictures that night. And the pictures of Paula Abdul are awesome because we're front row and the pictures are beautiful. I don't know why I still have the album.
Was that 91 or 92, DT?
I think it was 91 because I started dating her in 90 and we were off and on for about 2 years. But
91, okay.
It was right around that time. I mean, I think it was 91, but they opened for her and I absolutely hated them. And then when they showed up on New Jack City, you know, I mean, in fact, I think that's why. I think New Jack City came out first and I hated the song from the movie. And then they opened up for them. I hated them even more, but I did snap a few pictures of them. So I still have the pictures to prove it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a true story. Joe Mara also asks, he sent a 5-spot in too, our top 5 most beautiful actresses today. He's going to hate my answers, but you know why he's going to hate my answers? This is true, and I'm sorry, Joe. I don't watch many movies of today. I don't watch many TV shows of today. Like, my life is my insurance work, doing the shows, watching wrestling, you know, watching like news and retro stuff, and that's it. The day's over. Like, I mean, there's not that much time in the day. Like, I can't. I think the last time I went to the movies in person, it was Lord of the Rings. No, I think no, The Hobbit. One of the Hobbit movies, and we were going to go recently. I think it wasn't for the Von Erich movie. I don't remember what movie it was, but we didn't go. I just don't watch the movies of today. It's just something about them, like it all feel like they're the same. Like I don't watch horror films like I used to. I'm just not into movies of today. So
Well, I don't know. I mean, I watch movies of today, but I don't pay that much attention. I mean, it's funny. I'm even blanking on her name now. The girl who played Barbie and Wolf of Wall Street. What's her name, guys, in the chat?
and I saw
Uh,
Wolf of Wall Street and I hated that movie too.
guys, what's her name? The actress who played Barbie. I can't remember her name. Like that's how I don't really Margot Robbie. I would probably say her. That girl Sydney Sweeney, only because I see Draper always reposting her. She's another one. But it go to some old school people like Marissa Tomei. I still think look amazing for 60.
Yeah.
Diane Lane, who's 60, looks amazing. So I'm going to two, Marissa and Diana from the 80s and 90s. But Sydney Sweeney and Margot Robbie seem to be the two it girls of movies today. I'm trying to think of anybody else. It kind of, yeah, I watch movies and it just goes over my head who the actresses are. It doesn't really stick with me. A lot of these people, like I know the actress from the Snow White movie because she's a total fucking asshole. But other than that, and she was in West Side Story. Um, I don't even know her name. Big Mouth Whore is her name, I believe. No, I don't know her name. Um, but yeah, I mean, Sydney Sweeney and Margot Robbie are just names that will get bounced around so often. I was like, oh yeah, her. It seems like they're in everything. Um, who would you guys in the chat say? Help me and DT out. Who would you say
Well,
are?
I'm looking at a top 10 list on my phone right now. And
Yeah.
out of this top 10 list, the only woman that looks familiar at all that is beautiful is Gal Gadot. I mean, that's the only
Oh,
one I
Gal Gadot.
and
Yeah,
Amber
who's
Heard.
Wonder
Amber
Woman.
Heard
Yeah,
is on the list too.
Amber Heard, who took Johnny Depp to court and lost. Um,
She was
yeah, I
an
mean, she's
asshole in
okay.
court.
She's an asshole. I mean, she was okay looking. I don't think she's that all that great. Who was the one in the Iron Claw who played Kevin Von Erich's wife? She's pretty cute. Lily something, I think her name was. I can't remember her name.
You know who they have?
Um,
Oh, Lily James.
oh, Lily, yeah, she's attractive.
I did not know that. It
She's
just happened to
yes.
be on my phone.
Oh, that's not. Yeah, that's a nice looking woman. Uh, yeah, I mean, there's not those like the Sandra Bullocks and the Julia Roberts. There aren't women like that these days. That's why all these older actress women all seem to be doing Netflix now and stuff. Box office is all these kind of unknowns.
Mhm.
It's just again, it's cliche. It's a different time. It's totally a different time. Because if I even asked you guys, who's the new version of Brad Pitt? Like, who's the younger version of Brad Pitt? Like, who's the it guy who's in a lot of movies? All the girls like him. All the guys think he's cool. I couldn't tell you who that was. If he
Yeah.
was a 20 or 30 something, who is that? I have no fucking idea. And I'm pretty in tune with pop culture. Obviously, I'm in tune with music scene. But and I'm a movie connoisseur. I watch everything. I mean, I'll watch everything that comes on to like I was just watching Carry On with Jason Bateman on Netflix. Great movie. We were just talking about his sister Justine Bateman before. Jason is still a big time actor, and he's in his 50s now, so he's kind of old.
Yeah.
He's from our generation, Jason Bateman. So yeah, man, it's interesting. I really don't know. I mean, there's some young in the chat who could probably school us on
You want to?
Michael B. Jordan. He's kind of a hot actor.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, again, oh, Jenny Ortega. Yeah, I've heard of her. The girl played Wednesday Adams. She was also in Beetlejuice. Yeah, she's upcomer. But yeah, they don't stand out like the old days, DT, like with Sandra Bullock, Julia Roberts, people like that. They don't. I don't know if they have that kind of cachet, you know. I don't, and God
Yeah.
knows if they have that kind of career staying power. Will Jenny Ortega be around in 30 years
Mm.
like Julia Roberts? I don't know. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows?
You want to know
Will me and
something?
you be around in 30 years?
I
Do you
hope
think? I
so.
don't
I hope so, man.
know. I hope so.
Listen, I see things like Rickey Henderson. Now I'm like scared to get a cold. I mean, I had
Oh my
COVID,
God.
what, 4 months ago? And I for like
Yeah.
3 weeks, it was kicking my ass. Like it scares you. I'm telling a lot of you tuning in are not our age yet, but you'll
No,
get to a
man.
certain age, like little things like this will fucking rattle your brain, man. I mean, it just kind of freaks you out, but not trying to play Debbie Downer, but I got to tell you something very quick before I forget. You'll find this funny. So I
Sure.
mentioned earlier last Monday on the DTKC show, the show somehow went off the rails. We ended up talking about the Little Rascals and Family Ties and Facts
Yeah.
of Life and a whole bunch of other stuff. I swear to God, if you think I'm lying, please look it up. So that night we were talking about Mallory, and you told me that she was the big crush for some growing up, and I mentioned that on episodes of Family Ties more times than not she had no bra on. Do you know that night she had done an interview with Megyn Kelly? I did not know
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah, no, I did know that. I saw that interview. I thought it was great. That was
Yeah,
a great
I
interview.
the
I
next
watch Megan Kelly all the time. I watch her show
I
almost
you
daily.
want to know something? This is the true
She's one of my
story.
favorites. She's one of my favorites.
Bill O'Reilly. I mentioned this the other day. Bill O'Reilly and Megyn Kelly. Before 2 weeks ago, I had not watched either on any type of news in years.
Yeah.
Just after the election, they started. This is how it happened. After the election, what started popping up on my feed were all of the hilarious reactions from the other networks that Trump won, like just
Right.
CNN and MSNBC. And I tell you right now, if you want to get entertained, Kev, with news, you got to go out of your way and watch clips of Sky News Australia.
Oh no, I've seen it. I've seen with that
Oh my
girl, with
God.
the girl with the dark hair. Yeah, I've seen it.
I don't know her name, but she makes me laugh. She trolls Kamala Harris and trolls Democrats. And this is not about Democrats and Republicans, guys. I'm just talking about if you want to see a troll, a beautiful looking troll in the news world, just go on Sky News Australia on YouTube and just look up the clips. You'd be like, it's amazing what they get away with. That's all I'm saying. I mean, they really fucking troll these people, man. It's
Yeah.
just pretty funny to see that from afar. But it was just bizarre that 2 weeks ago I started watching those clips about news reporters all getting out of whack, and then here comes on my feed Megyn Kelly, and I'm like, holy shit! So she does her own show now. And then Bill O'Reilly, he fucking just does a show from his house with a green screen, and they're making insane amount of cash right now. Insane amount of cash. That's the future. That's the future of news. Everybody doing shit from their house with a green screen. So,
Yeah.
guys, we are almost at 3 hours. We're going to start bringing this home. So if anybody has any last minute questions before we start wrapping this up, because remember, in less than 24 hours, Kevin and I are going to be right back here talking about Monday Night Raw. We're going to be 1 week closer to Netflix. We're going to talk about some wrestling news, a couple of discussions. We definitely got some stuff planned for tomorrow night. So, it's a lot. 3 hours tonight, another hour and a half tomorrow. So, and then we got Christmas. So it'll be enough for everybody to enjoy during the Christmas holiday.
Exactly. If anybody wants to send in $1 million super chat, now is the time to do it.
SM Punk sends in a great question. A memorable Christmas gift that you got when you were a kid?
Godzilla, the Godzilla figure with the hand that pops out when you press the button, and you press the back of his neck, and a fire thing comes out of his tongue, like a color form thing. 1978. Look it up, guys. Godzilla giant action figure that was up. Well, it was more than an action figure. It was a big doll, so to speak. I was 10 years old, 1978, and I got the Godzilla figure, and that was like my favorite gift. I ever got. I fucking, I keep, I, fucking the whole. I got the he had a adversary. It was like this giant robot. I can't remember his name,
For some
but
reason, I kind of
Godzilla
remember
had this
that.
adversary. Yeah, yeah.
I kind of remember
It's a
that. Like
giant
you push
Godzilla.
you push the head or you push the tail or something, and
Yeah, and it was like well, the tail came off. You could take the tail off. The tail would shoot
oh,
off, and
okay.
then he had you pressed a button in the back of his head, and his tongue was like remember the color forms, DT color form.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It used to come out like a color form. It was like a
I
color form
guarantee
tongue
you.
of flame, and he shot. For some reason, Godzilla was able to shoot his hand off. Like you could press a button, and the hand would shoot off. And the other thing I got the year before was Stretch Monster. Remember
Oh
Stretch
yeah,
Monster and
Stretch
Stretch Armstrong?
Armstrong, Stretch
Yeah,
Monster.
I had Stretch Monster, I had Stretch Armstrong, I had all the stretches. So yeah, toys, and then I think I've told the story a million times from 1980 on, when I was 11 going on 12. Every year for the 4 years, I got wrestling tickets as a Christmas gift.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. Hmm.
My parents never gave me fucking Godzilla stuff. Never
Really?
did.
Never got
I
Godzilla?
never got the Godzilla, but you know what? I guarantee that commercial's online because for some reason I just
Yeah,
picture that
definitely.
commercial. It just something. It was
19,
green.
1978. Yeah, it was green, and it was made of plastic. It was hard plastic. It was about probably 12 to 15 inches high.
Okay.
I'm sure you could find. Yeah, guys, look up Godzilla toy, 1978. It should be there. And I wish I kept all that stuff. Like I wish I knew then what I know now with
Yeah.
the value of a lot of this stuff, and all that stuff. I never kept any of them. They were like years later, they were just tossed.
The two gifts that I remember the most growing up, and that this is true. My parents never gave me wrestling tickets for Christmas. I kind of look back on it, that would have been a cool fucking gift to get.
Yeah.
Um, the two gifts that I remember fondly is back in the late 70s, Huffy was a very, very popular brand of bicycles, and my parents got me a Huffy bike. And if anybody goes on Google and types in Huffy bike 1979, and you got to type in number 74, because that was the coolest thing about it, because I lived on 74th Street growing up. And they gave me a bike, and it had the number 74 on the front. And I always thought, or when I was a kid, that it was custom made because I lived on 74th Street. And they only came out with that one number that year. So it wasn't like you could pick random numbers. That gift I always remember, and also Atari. I'll never forget Atari
Yeah. Yeah,
because,
Atari was another thing. My brother John got the Atari, and then of course all the brothers played with it. So
yeah, those are my two gifts that I remember most. Not even close. Those are the only two more than anything. Dog 29J sent in a 5 spot. His
thank you, Doc.
three most underrated tag teams are the Bashams, Rene Dupree and Rob Conway, and Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin. And he's going to the
Okay.
live event in the Garden later this week.
Oh, nice. Okay, have a good time, man. That should be fun.
Yeah, I mean, there was some concern earlier in the last month that they weren't going to have a garden show for the Christmas holiday week, and they are. So I know Kev is always put over the Bashams and
Yeah.
Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin. Haas and
Oh yeah,
Benjamin
absolutely.
with Kurt Angle were fucking awesome.
Haas and Benjamin were a great team. I mean, some of you guys unfortunately didn't get to see the original concept for that team, which was Russ and Charlie, the two brothers. And Russ died, 3 years into being a wrestler. Suddenly, you talk about someone who died suddenly at a young age out of the blue, was Russ. You guys can probably see clips of Russ online. Shelton, was just kind of the they wanted Charlie to be in a tag team, and it wound up being a great idea. I mean, Shelton and Charlie are a great team, but the original team, if you remember, DT, to be brought up to the main roster
Yeah.
from OVW was Charlie and Russ Haas, and Russ was as good as Charlie. They thought Russ was going to be a big star, by the way.
Yeah. Obviously we were talking earlier about podcasts, but I will say this: Jim Ross and Jim Cornette, whenever Russ Haas is brought up, they always talk fondly of him. That's
Yeah,
one
he
thing
was supposed to be a big deal.
yeah, that's one thing that I have noticed over the years with many people in wrestling. Whenever Russ Haas comes up, nothing ever bad. Like it's always like, that guy had something. Like it just he was taken from us way too soon. I mean, and that was pretty tragic. I mean, he was not like like an everyday name in wrestling that you knew at the time, but you knew of him, but he wasn't a household name yet. So it really didn't get much play amongst the wrestling world when he passed.
No, he picked by Kurt Angle. He was the original America's, Angle crew was Russ and Charlie. Shelton was quite honestly option B. Obviously, it turned out that that was, a great choice, but it was only by proxy because of Russ's sudden passing. But Russ was handpicked by Kurt Angle to be one of his guys. And again, Russ was Bray Wyatt and Charlie was more the Bo Dallas, if you want to put it that way. Cornette, everybody predicted Russ Haas was going to be a breakout star. He didn't even get to be on television, DT, on the main roster, really. They
Yeah.
did a lot of dark matches and traveled around with Angle and opened up wrestling cards on road shows. And Russ never even got a moment in the sun on the main roster. Never even happened. So, but again, Shelton was there. They teamed him up, and it worked out all for the best. Rather have his brother, but that was just you're right, DT. It doesn't get talked about
No,
that much. It really
no,
doesn't.
no,
Doesn't
not at all.
doesn't get talked about that much.
And you want to know something? I don't know how you feel about this, but I see a lot of love for Shelton Benjamin in AEW. And here's my honest take about Shelton Benjamin in AEW. This is
He was just
straight
in
up.
town the other night for Ring of Honor. Wrestled here in New York.
Yeah.
In Ring of Honor.
This is
Yeah.
my honest take about him in AEW. Is he having spectacular matches? Absolutely. No question. But, the thing is, where is this going to lead? Is this going to lead him with a significant championship where it's not just felt like he has a prop around his waist? And does it feel like AEW is putting momentum behind him, putting jets behind him? It doesn't feel that way. Like if Shelton Benjamin was in, let's say, NXT right now, and they let him go for 10, 15-minute matches, and he was killing it in NXT the same way he's killing in AEW, I think people would feel like, oh, he's having great matches, but it's not really leading to anything. If Triple H would have kept Shelton Benjamin and had him do, 12, 15-minute matches against Ludwig Kaiser or Braun Breaker or even Seth Rollins, where does that lead? It's great that he's getting 15-minute matches, but guess what, guys? And I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, but Kev and I have been watching independent wrestling at indie shows for decades upon decades. And Kev will vouch 30, well, not 30 years ago, but 20 years ago, you could see like a very young AJ Styles, a very young anybody, Amazing Red, anybody you want to come up with for a Jack Sabbath show or a Frank Goodman USA Pro Wrestling show and get 15 minutes on the indie circuit and do everything they possibly can. But, just giving somebody a lot of time and wrestling certain people is great. But are we doing this? Are we supporting Shelton Benjamin because he's going to lead to, like getting that championship that kind of like he escaped him in WWE? Or are we just gunning to get great matches against some opponents we thought we'd never see, and that's it? A lot of the titles in AEW look like props. Like this person looks more important because they have a title around their waist. I just don't feel, like Shelton Benjamin. We've said this about AEW like 15 times in the last 3 years, from Jay White to everyone else. Oh my God, Jay White's on fire right now. And then you see what happens. Oh my God, so-and-so's on fire right now. And then you see what happens. I mean, he's having great matches, but he could be on the indies right now doing the same exact thing. And where is this leading?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
that's how I
no,
look at
no,
it.
it's true.
That's how I
No,
look
it's
at
true.
it.
Also, to let people know, I'm sorry, to backtrack, people are asking. You could look up Memphis Wrestling for Russ Haas. He was also in CW before they signed WWE in 2000. There, Memphis Wrestling. There's a lot of footage of on YouTube.
Okay.
Memphis and CZW. 99, 2000, 2001. He died in December 2001. So there's like 2 years worth. There's a bunch of clips you could find.
Yeah, that's why, like you said, you know, just it's crazy. Like we had 9/11, and a couple of months later he was gone. It was just like a lot, that might
Yeah.
be a little bit why it was an oversight too, because there was so much with 9/11 going on at the time that Russ Haas kind of got, like, I don't want to say brushed under the rug, but I don't remember, people making like that big of a deal about, like, wow, young guy, wonder, wonder what happened. And then just next thing you
Heart
know,
attack.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. Um,
27 years old. Firebomb there, DT.
yeah. Jimmy Fingers, man. Thank you very much for your
There you go.
generosity, my friend. He sent us a
50
50
bones.
spot. Merry Christmas, Jimmy. Jimmy
Thank you,
says,
Jimmy.
yeah, my parents got me the Huffy Thunderstorm by mistake. It was white and it was a girl's bike. Embarrassing. So I won't forget that. Also, the $6 million man doll and the Stretch Armstrong that I could cut open to see that jelly substance. I swear on my family, Kev, earlier when you brought up the stretch dolls, I was going to ask
Yeah,
you, did you ever get tempted to cut it open because to
I
see what
did.
was?
I did.
Why did we all have
And
that fascination in cutting it open? Like, was just a frustration that we couldn't just like pull it apart?
I think in 1980, like I was about to turn from 11 to 12, and I thought I was outgrowing toys at that point. And again, I got into wrestling and wrestling magazines, and going to wrestling was everything to me. So the toys, I felt like I could just, take it apart. It wasn't a big deal. I wouldn't miss it again. Who would realize that these toys, these retro toys, would be a big deal and a collector's item, and it would be valuable if I left them in pristine condition. And I remember I made a cut with a steak knife across the back of the figure and just pressed it, and just to see that gooey substance. And that reminded me of, you remember slime, DT, that used to come in the can?
Oh yeah, the little like the little Easter
Remember
egg kind of
slime?
things. Yeah, the
Yeah,
green stuff.
slime. Yeah, you play with the slime. Jimmy Fingers, if you remember all this stuff. And again, thank you for the $50 gift. If you remember retro toys, you got to remember the slime that came in the little cans, and it was just slime, and it was just green slime. You just put it in your hands, it would have a wet feeling, but your hands would dry really quickly. God, I don't know what the fuck that was made of, by the way. I have no idea what that was. But yeah, it was called slime. It was like garbage slime, and for some reason, it was a toy. So yeah, it looks something similar to the slime. It was like this like jelly substance. And yeah, I don't know why I did that. And again, if I knew then what I knew now, I would have kept the Godzilla. I would have kept, listen, I was already playing with them as a kid. I did not have the mindset of keep it in the box for pristine condition and sell it decades later. No one thought that in the 1970s.
No.
I don't remember anybody having that mindset, of anybody that me and my brothers played with as kids, of I can't open that. I never heard any
Yeah,
kid
I
say.
can. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember that, guys. I don't know. There might be collectors out there since day one in the 60s or 70s. They never opened the gift, or they put it on their shelf in pristine. I personally didn't know any kids like that.
I'll
I
give you
personally.
one. I'll give you a toy that we all grew up on, and I don't ask me why. I just thought about it, and it was the funniest thing because you would take it out of the egg, and you would I tell me you didn't do this when we grew up. One of the gifts that we used to get was called Silly Putty, and you would literally like
Yes.
flatten it down on top of a newspaper, and then you turn it over, and you would see like the newspaper on the Silly Putty.
And it was like just amazing to you, and you would show your parents like look, like I have Reggie Jackson's face on, like,
Silly
right, like
Putty.
it could be, yeah, like on the paper, like Richard, like whoever the president, Gerald Ford, or
Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter.
I understand why he's forgetful.
No, no, even DT. There were times, even like I would see the cast of Saturday Night Live like in the newspaper, and I would press it, and I would have like John Belushi's face on the
I'm telling you.
on the imagery, and it came out pretty good. I mean, for '70s, that technology to us was kind of amazing. You know what I mean?
I'm looking at Amazon right now to see if they still sell Oh yeah, I think they do.
Silly putty, man. It
Well,
was awesome.
no, they call well, no. Oh my God. Kev, later on, if you want to see like how ridiculous, like how soft this country has become, I typed in silly putty and nothing
Hmm.
comes up. The first recommendation, therapy putty. Therapy putty. It's
Oh
for
God.
kids for that are under stress. They have another one for kids who are trying to improve grip strength, but they also have therapy putty for like mental, like for just kind of like those stress balls, like the squeeze balls, like you just like
Oh God.
squeeze it.
Yeah, you squeeze a ball in your
Oh my
hand.
God,
Yeah.
therapy putty, silly
That's
putty.
They
If
don't
you
call it silly
guys,
putty anymore.
they don't make silly putty.
What's a problem with calling it silly? I don't get
I don't
that.
know. I don't know, but I didn't see. I looked on
DT,
Amazon
can
and
you look up slime like from 1970s, like slime, I think it was called.
yeah, I'm gonna look up
I'm just curious.
if they still sell it. You mean?
Well, if you can even find it, like like I mean, it had like a 2-year window of popularity. I remember in the late '70s, I
They
think.
have slime kits, but no, they don't have like regular slime. It's
Oh, wow.
but you want to know something? I don't think I might have eBay on this phone. I bet you right now you could probably somebody on eBay would be selling it. I'm gonna type in silly putty and I guarantee you it's gonna come up almost immediately.
Well,
Okay, I typed in
uh,
silly putty.
okay.
Okay, here it is. Original silly putty. 6 plastic eggs, individually shrink wrapped, brand new from Crayola, $11.
No, it's not bad.
They have vintage silly putty from 1981, original, new in the wrapper, sealed, $21. That's not bad.
Wow. No, it's not bad at all.
Kind of, you know what? I'll look up slime. So the problem is probably like all like movies would come up and stuff. Let me see. Oh, wait. Yeah, here's slime. 16 ounces of slime. Um, it looks like they still sell a variation of it for about $10.
Oh,
But
wow.
if I put in original slime, let me see if I put in original slime.
It was basically like snot. I mean,
Yeah, it
literally,
looked like
it was
snot.
like
It was like
snot.
yellowish, greenish.
I don't know what the fascination, but I remember in school, guys,
Well,
we would pass the slime to each other
you
in the
would put it
desk,
under
like
your
next to desk.
nose to
Yeah,
make
you
it
would
look
put it
like you were blowing your nose.
I mean, you'd put it in a girl's hands and she would feel it. She's like, ew, and then she would pass it to a friend, wipe her hands, but it would be dry and it'd be like, all right, your hands are wet, and then all of a sudden they're dry. Well, let me just, Jimmy Finger sent another $5. Said, did either of you, thank you, Jimmy, for the extra 5. Did either of you get the urge to eat the Play-Doh? It smelled appetizing, but tasted like shit. No, I think me and you, DT, were close to like 9 or 10. We knew probably not to eat the Play-Doh back then,
No,
right?
but
I
you
mean,
want to know something? I do
no.
remember something about slime. And this is amazing for me to think
It
of.
had a specific smell. It had a
No,
weird smell to it, yeah.
do you remember this about slime? That whenever you touched it, it was cold.
It was always cold,
It
yeah.
was always cool. There was always like a
Yeah, it
cold
was.
temperature to it.
It
That's
was.
crazy to think about. I don't think I've talked about slime since like 1980, and we're
Yeah,
talking
no,
about it in 2024.
I even Play-Doh, I think is Play-Doh still around? Do they still have Play-Doh for
They
kindergarten
do. They
kids
do
today?
have Play-Doh. I mean, they have like there's people selling the original one. I'm gonna see if I could get it like
Play-Doh.
dirt cheap. If I get it dirt cheap, I'll send you one.
Wow, Play-Doh. That's
Curious to see if
amazing.
it still works, but I don't remember ever wanting to eat it. I honestly don't remember that. But
Oh, man.
I could swear I cut open my Stretch Armstrong too.
Yeah, no, I did, and again, I probably never would have did it if I could see it to the future, and I would have kept all that stuff. Shogun Warriors, Thank you, Ben, before, who said it was part of the Shogun series. Shogun Warriors were able to shoot their fists out of the socket, and you were able to put it back in with a spring. Yeah, the Shogun Warriors were pretty cool. That's well before Transformers, guys, and GoBots. There was the Shogun Warriors, the originals, well before Transformers.
And I do remember all the $6 million Man stuff at the time. Absolutely was a
Yeah.
huge fan. Didn't I send you one time the movie with him and Bigfoot?
You sent me the CD, yeah, and I got since then I got it on Blu-ray.
I know, it's awesome,
Um,
man.
yeah, no, yeah, and I have the two versions. I have when Andre played him, and then
Yes.
Ted Cassidy, who played Lurch, played him in Bigfoot Returns 2 years later.
If you want a good laugh, go on YouTube whenever you can and go check out the some of the bloopers about
Yeah.
$6 Million Man. It's not bloopers where you see outtakes, but they show you little things about the TV series that you never notice. Like sometimes, like when he would jump, he would be like jumping off like a springboard and stuff. But they show you slow motions of him fighting Andre. And if you look closely, like you could see Andre wearing shoes. Like you could see like kind of like the pants. It's pretty funny. I mean, it's a cool thing to see, but $6 Million Man, you know, growing up, that was good shit, man. That was good shit.
It was,
I
right? No,
even
it was.
and you know what? I even got into Bionic Woman because of that series. I
Yeah,
don't think I would have liked Bionic Woman if
I
it
had a
was.
big crush as a little kid on her, and both actors and actors. The guy who played Steve Austin, Lee Majors, is still alive in his mid
Yes,
80s, and the woman who played the Bionic Woman,
Lindsay
Lindsay, I can't
Wagner.
remember her name. Wagner is
Lindsay
still alive.
Wagner. Yeah.
She's still alive too, in her late 70s. So they're both still alive and well.
I tell you, there's a legit growing up. I like, yeah, like you ever have somebody say, like, you know, if you could die and come back as somebody, who would you want to come back with? Who
Yeah.
was the guy that played the Duke of New York in Escape from New York?
Isaac Hayes.
I've said more than one time that if I died and have to come back as a black man, I would want to come back as Isaac Hayes. But when I was a kid, I used to tell people if I died and came back as a guy, I would want to come back as Lee Majors.
If I died and came back as a black guy, I want to come back as Julius Erving, Dr. J.
Dr. J was awesome, man.
He was. He's still awesome. Yeah, he's still alive and well too.
Julius Erving, and
Yeah,
I love the 70s basketball retro stuff, especially the basketballs when they were red, white, and blue.
Oh, that was great. Yeah.
That was awesome, man. So guys, we're gonna wrap this up. Yeah, we're almost at 3.5 hours. So much love again, everybody. Thank you all for hanging out with us this Sunday night.
Absolutely.
You know, for everybody who celebrates this holiday season, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. You know, whatever you celebrate, you know, much love. You know, it's cool, and I'm not saying this because of the Trump election, but it's cool because last couple of years, I found myself telling people happy holidays more than anything else. And I realized, because it wasn't that many years ago that, you know, people would get mad if you said Merry Christmas, you know, and it just really bothers me that, you know, you can't say certain words because it would upset people. Now we could say Merry Christmas. We could call you a retard. Now we could say whatever we want. So, you know, listen, it's people should not get offended over stupid, you know, little things, petty things like that. There's so much shit going on in this world. Just have a good time, be happy. And Lee Majors is 85.
Yeah, no, I know. I said he's mid 80s. You know who, DT, another throwback, and I didn't even know he was still alive. And he did a comedy special in New York recently. Gabe Kaplan, Mr. Carter.
Oh, Mr. Carter.
Yeah, and he's 79, by the way. He looks pretty good. He looks like Gary Shandling at this point.
You want to know
pretty
something?
good.
I swear to God. I used to love watching Welcome Back, Kotter when I grew up. He was my least favorite character. I hated him.
Mr. Carter?
I don't know why I hated him so much. Like every time the show would end, he'd be like hanging out with his wife and saying like a dumb joke. And I'd be like looking at the TV as a kid, and I'd be like, You're not funny, asshole. Like, I really had like an anger towards Gabe Kaplan. Then he was on Battle of the Network Stars, and I was like, kind of fucking socks are you wearing? Like, I thought he was flaky. There was just something about him I didn't like about it. And not because he was flaky, but he just rubbed me the wrong way growing up.
Oh, DT, I got to update because on Twitter someone sent me a message. The original slime toy by Mattel, 1976. Look it up. And it's
Okay.
going for $35. It's from Mattel. Slime, and it comes in a garbage pail, a mini garbage pail. That's right.
No shit.
So, yeah, go check it out. Slime.
Would you get a
76.
kick out of it if I send it to you as like a late Christmas gift?
That would be amazing, dude. That would
All
be
right,
the greatest gift of all time.
I
That would put
guarantee
you over the top.
Nah.
You would supersede every one of my brothers. You
Well,
would be number one.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna put the show online. None of you out there
Slime.
better not
Oh, my
fucking bid on
God.
it. I'm gonna buy it tonight. I'm gonna get the slime and then for you,
I'm
and
gonna,
I'll
s-
get
I-
this.
I'm gonna send you the link. Wait, hold on a
Yeah,
second.
send me the link on Twitter.
I'll
And,
send like let me get this right. Who sent it to me?
and
SM Punk. Actually, SM Punk in the chat sent it to me. Yeah, dude, thank you. It came in that's right. It came in a little green garbage pail called Slime, and it came out actually in '76, and it kind of petered out by '79. So it had like a 3-year run of popularity. Oh my God, man, that just brings back such memories, man. Thank you for finding that. Now it comes all back to me. Mattel put it out. I knew that there was a commercial online on YouTube. I think you could find.
you
So
know,
thank you for that, SM Punk.
you
Thank
know
you.
what? Since all of you out there love this little retro toy talk the last half hour,
Wow.
tonight I'm gonna pick up Slime for Kev. I'm gonna pick up a thing of silly putty just for the fuck of it. And then if I can, I'm gonna get a Stretch Armstrong. And as soon as I get it on
Oh
video, I'll
wow.
cut it open.
Oh Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we'll cut it open. Just to cut it open, just to see. I mean, I'm sure somebody
Wow,
on YouTube has done it,
funny.
but we'll just cut it open. Maybe what we'll do is, who's somebody we hate in wrestling right now? Not Hulk Hogan, but somebody younger.
Who do we
Tony
hate in
Khan?
wrestling?
I don't hate him. I don't hate Tony Khan.
I don't really hate anybody. I don't even hate the people who hate our show. I don't even hate them. I mean,
Yeah,
who do I dislike right now?
maybe we'll go with Hulk Hogan. I'll put Hulk Hogan's face around the head, and then we'll cut it open so it looks like we're cutting Hulk Hogan open.
You know who rubs us the wrong way? Let's be honest. Fucking Mercedes Moné. What she did the other day, bragging about the money she's making and fuck everybody, that deserves some.
You know what?
Let's put her face on that.
I'll see if I can find.
Everybody in the chat agree? When you brag about making money and the fans can all suck a dick
Well, you
or
know
whatever,
what?
'cause she's rich and we're not. That deserves the fan wrath, in my opinion.
She is flat chested. So if I did get Stretch Armstrong, if I put like a bikini on her, I guess, yeah, we could put Mercedes Moné's head on. If there's a female Stretch Armstrong, like I don't think there's like a transgender Stretch Armstrong. Like if they have a female version, I'll pick it up and then we'll put Mercedes' head on it and we'll cut it open.
Unless you guys could think of a bigger asshole as a man, like as a male, like version of who's like the male in wrestling version of Mercedes Moné now, obnoxious as stupid shit. Who would that be? Anybody? Can anybody think of a male wrestler?
Oh, I got one. I got one. Ryan Nemeth.
Ryan Nemeth? Think Ryan
Nick
Nemeth?
Nemeth's
Really?
brother, the one that took upon himself to trash CM Punk.
Yeah, I guess. I
Ricochet?
just think Ricochet could be an interesting one. He'll definitely come after us for that, but that's okay.
You know what, dude? We got to see if there was a brother Stretch Armstrong. We got to find. You know what? We got to get. I got to get the Stretch Armstrong, and then I got to put the vintage Ricochet hair on it, like the Don King hair that he used to have when he first started wrestling. You know what? I have a feeling we're gonna cut it open, and it's probably dried out.
I wonder. By the way, DT, I wonder if you can get. I mean, if slime is $35, Stretch Monster's got to be like $100 item. I don't know how much. You got to see how much that is. I don't know if you want to
right before
drop a lot of coin just to wreck it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Before we go, I literally have my phone in front of me. I'm gonna look it up live right now. Stretch Arm. Oh, it pops right up. Stretch Armstrong. Okay. Stretch Armstrong. Oh, the original. They have a mini, brand new in the box, $25.
That's not bad. Okay.
They have one from. Oh, whoa. They had them going back. They've been around as recent as 2016.
Wow.
Wow. There's one from, wow, they do have black, white. They have all different ones. Yeah, there's mostly from 2016. I don't see any really old one. Oh, wait, here's one. 1976 Stretch Armstrong, $90. So we might have to get like a 2016 one. So
Oh, okay.
here's oh no, never mind. Oh my God, there's a custom Stretch Armstrong, and he's got a penis that's like 10 inches long. $349.
Oh, Jesus
Yeah, we're
Christ.
not buying that one.
No,
It's
that's
funny. You know what? Actually, Stretch Armstrong came out in 1970. Okay, here it is. I type in 1976. They have one in the box, pre-owned, $110.
Look up the slime, because the one that SM Punk sent me, I think, is sold. It says actually sold on
I'm
the
sure there's going to be
35.
another one.
Maybe
Do
there's
you
another one.
know?
Yeah, but I sent you the link for it anyway. I sent it to you.
Here's one I'm going to email you. Going to get a kick out of. They have from 1977 a Stretch Armstrong, but it is the monster Japanese Sukuda that used to feud with Godzilla, and then somebody selling it $700 brand new in the box.
Oh wow! I
In
mean, Stretch Monster was
1977.
pretty cool too, along Stretch Armstrong.
I
They,
don't know.
Stretch Monster.
Yeah,
You know,
if we
want to know another toy, DT, from back then? Do you remember Bullet Man? Bullet Man, the human bullet.
don't remember that.
Anybody remember that? Bullet Man, the
Bullet Man.
human bullet. Yeah,
I don't.
Bullet Man. He had a bullet head. It was that commercial, Bullet Man. Yeah, and he would fight with the Intruder. And the Intruder was the enemy of GI Joe.
I don't
You remember the
remember.
Intruder? You remember the Intruder?
I
Oh
was
my
never into
God!
GI Joe,
You
even
look like
when
a caveman.
Sergeant Slaughter was pushing it. I was never into it.
Bullet Man, the human bullet, man. That was in the 70s too. He had a bullet head. It was Bullet Man, the human bullet. Yeah,
Well,
that was a great toy.
I don't think Stretch Armstrong from 2016 would be fun to cut open because it's probably still
No.
good. If I could find one cheap from the 70s, I'll get it. But I'll definitely look up Slime tonight, and that'd be interesting to see if it's still, as like it was from the 70s. Just imagine opening up a 50-year-old bowl of snot.
DT, another retro, the trading cards before Garbage Pail Kids in our day, they had wacky packages.
Oh yeah,
Remember that?
wacky pack. You would get like
Wacky
gum in it.
packages. And it would come with like Blunder bread, like they would
Yes.
have a takeoff on Breakstone butter and Wonder Bread and milk, all different products that we bought back in the day. They're called wacky packages.
You
It
would
was
have
the original
stickers,
Garbage Pail Kids.
cards. Sure.
Stickers, cards, yeah, wacky packages. It was like a big fucking deal to get wacky
Those were
packages.
awesome, man.
They were fucking awesome. I
That
like to
was
see
good
those. I mean,
shit.
this is all flooding back memories here.
Yeah. Well, Kev, I'm gonna start. We're
Yeah,
at
we
three
got
three and a half
roll out.
hours. I'm gonna put
I
this
know.
online.
Good show.
Yeah, good show, fun show, Christmas. That's why we're talking about our old retro stuff, and we'll definitely post yours. I mean, even if you're younger, like post
Yeah.
what your childhood memories were with stuff like that. And if you're older than us, post it as well. I mean, even back in the day, getting a little Fisher Price record player and playing 45s on a little record player was a fun thing to do.
Even if you're older than us and you got a rock for Christmas,
Oh, you got a couple of
stone
sticks.
You got a couple of sticks.
Oh man,
you got literally sticks and stones. Oh man,
oh shit.
Hysterical.
Kev,
right, man.
Merry Christmas. Well, I'll talk to you tomorrow. So
Yeah, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I sent you the link for that thing if you can find it.
Yes, I'll
That'll
definitely.
be awesome.
I'll update you
Oh,
tonight.
dude, that'll be all
Absolutely.
over my social media. That'll be like all I post that. That's gonna pop my Facebook and Instagram friends who all went to school with me and stuff. So anybody sees Slime, that's gonna be like a huge fucking.
They're gonna be like, "How did you
huge.
think of
Oh
Slime
my
after
God,
all these years?"
dude! I am telling you, I will show you the traction that I get on that shit. I mean,
I'm gonna look
it'll
tonight.
be big. It'll be big. It'll be bigger than if I got an Academy Award. Literally. I mean,
No
they'll be
joke.
like, "Oh my God, how'd you get that?"
We'll find it. Absolutely.
Sounds good, man.
All
All right,
right.
I'll catch you tomorrow, DT. Well, I'll talk to you in the chat offline.
Yeah, I'll send you a chat later. All right.
Okay,
Take
man.
it easy,
Talk to you
Kev.
later. And everyone have a good night. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Peace.
Take care. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Much love. As always, again, Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. We thank you very much for hanging out with us tonight. For everybody, who checks us out on the archive as well, thank you as always for the support. Our patrons, our channel members, everybody who downloads the shows, spreads the word. It's you guys. This is why we're doing it. I mean, and the fact that you can, not only keep us running after all these years, but keeping us running at a high level. And 2025, man, we're going to take it to an even bigger level. And without your support, this would not be happening. So to think, a little less than a year ago, Kev was still doing his thing. I was still doing my thing. We weren't talking, and to see how much has changed in 2024. And it's amazing to think that we had all those years that we weren't doing the shows together. And, I looking back on it, I didn't want that to happen. And I'm to blame for a good part of it, majority of it. But I think in the end, it just made what we do now even stronger. And we're having a blast. This is not fake. If you look, again, when we were talking about the podcast earlier, this was not to stir up stuff. Somebody, sent us a couple of dollars, asked us to talk about it. So we talked about it. But, the one thing that you notice on a lot of these shows, you don't see a lot of smiling and a lot of laughter. I think that is key for a lot of shows. And you look at a lot of the other shows out there. I mean, say what you want about JBL, if you like him or not. That guy laughs his ass off with Briscoe. You look at even others, Brian Last and Jim Cornette, they're always laughing their ass off. You look at even WSI, James Romero, I remember his name now, and Dutch Mantel, when they do their shows, they laugh their ass off. I'm not saying that Conrad doesn't laugh. I mean, he has a lot of moments where he's cracking it up, but I think sometimes just having that fun vibe, not always, just flashing back and, having debates and arguments or, differences of opinion. I think just adding a little bit of that lighthearted comedy, even if it falls off the rails, look what just happened to us. Look at what we just talked about. It went completely off the rails. Last week, we're fucking talking about a fat little kid from 100 years ago. And Kev just somehow says, Chubsy Ubsy from the Little Rascals, our gang, looks like the Rizzler. Hey, you put them side by side, like, holy fucking shit, they do. And then the next thing you know, we're talking about, all crazy stuff. So this is what we do. This is what we've always done. I go back to 1997, Kev, a couple of years afterwards. We're doing this since 2004. And I can't believe we're already almost done with 2004. 24, what am I saying? So imagine if it was still 2004. Pretty wild. You know what? I'll say this in closing. Right around 2004, arguably, WWE probably had maybe their best roster of all time. You want to go 2002 to 2004, they had wrestlers from ECW. They had wrestlers from WCW. They had WWE. You had Brock, starting to get ready to become the next big thing. You had Kurt Angle coming in. You look at right around that time, you look at even the legends, the old school, even the NWO coming back eventually once their contracts with WCW were up. You look at that time, that era, that might have been the greatest all-star roster that WWE's ever had. TNA obviously interrupted that, but keep in mind when TNA came around in 2002, a lot of what TNA had was what WWE did not want to have. And you see, but pretty interesting to go back 20 years and think about how everything was. But you want a little treat, guys, you go on DTKCshow.com. Towards the bottom of the page, you'll see a bunch of thumbnails where it says DTKC through the years, and it's thumbnails from when we used to do the shows back then. If you go and you click the thumbnails to the earlier days, 2002, 2004, 2006, 2007, even if you go check out that XPW one from 2002, it'll bring you to Wayback Machine and what the website looked like 20 years ago, 22 years ago, 24 years ago. And you'll see not only, what the website looked like at the time, but what we were talking about at the time. So and it's pretty interesting to see how things have changed since then. But guys, I got to get my shit together. I still got some editing and uploading to do. So you'll have a good rest of your evening. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. For those that are going to hang out with us Monday night, Kev will be live with me in our Discord channel, dtkcdiscord.com, right after Raw. As far as Tuesday's Patreon, I may actually do a brief Christmas Eve episode later on in the evening. It's undecided yet. That's why I haven't announced it. Me and my wife are going to her parents' house Christmas Eve, but we're going very early. So we're going to be back very early. And then Christmas Day, we're going to my parents' house. So that night, I may actually have some time free. And I know what some of you guys are going to say, well, why don't you spend it with your wife? That may end up happening too. But for my wife, Christmas is not the most fun time right now because this year she lost 2 of her 3 Yorkies. Yes, we have 2 beautiful dogs now that have, I don't want to say replaced them, but she's not in the Christmas spirit. So she may want to just get her ass to bed early Tuesday night. So we may have a Patreon show after all. Not sure. But, when we do news updates this week, the next news update probably won't be until Thursday because most of wrestling's already been taped. So unless somebody dies or somebody gets arrested or something controversial happens in the next 48 to 72 hours, we probably won't need to do a news update until Thursday, but we'll see. We'll see. So everyone be well, much love, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Take care, everybody. Be well, and we'll talk to you all again soon.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.